At this time, I'd like to call the closed session meeting of the Yucaipa City Council of June 26, 2023. The time is 6 o'clock. Is that right? 6:01? 5:30. I'm sorry. Yes, it is, 5:30. Let me back up. The time is 5:30. Jennifer, would you do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Gardner,
Here.
Councilmember Thorpe,
Here.
Councilmember Venable,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Duncan.
Here?
Absent from tonight's meeting is Mayor Beaver.
Okay, great. Are there any public speakers for the closed session?
Nothing for closed session.
Okay, at this time then, I'll go ahead and close the meeting to closed session, and the time is 5:32. You guys ready? Ready?
It is 17, so I'm
It is
just going to stick
okay,
it to
perfect. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to call the regular open session of the Yucaipa City Council meeting on June the 26th to order at, and I'll get the time right this time, at 6:02. Would you please call roll, Anna?
Should we do the Pledge of Allegiance first?
What's that?
Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, exactly right. But that's not on here. At this time, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, we have a special presentation. Who's going to take care of Park and Recreation Month?
Can we do a roll call?
Now we'll do the roll call.
Okay.
Boy, I'm batting 1,000. My apologies. Go ahead.
Councilmember Garner,
Here.
Councilmember Thorpe,
Here.
Councilmember Venable,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Duncan.
Here.
Absent from tonight's meeting is Mayor Beaver.
Okay, now we'll have our special presentation. This is Park and Recreation Month, July, or is it July or June? July? Who's going to present this?
If you could read the proclamation into record, and then Megan and her community services team will come before you, hopefully with a photo.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read the proclamation at this time. This is our proclamation of the City of Yucaipa designating the month of July as Park and Recreation Month. Whereas parks and recreation and community services programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the City of Yucaipa, and whereas parks and recreation is vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our community, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region, and whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for hiking trails, popular sports, swimming pools, and many other activities designated to promote active lifestyles, and whereas Parks and Recreation is a leading provider of healthy meals, nutrition services, and education, and whereas Parks and Recreation and community services programming, such as the STARS and before and after school program, arts education, youth sports, and swim lessons are critical to the childhood development, and whereas Parks and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through the increased property values, expansion of local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas our parks and recreation and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors, and whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the City of Yucaipa recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, and now therefore be it resolved that I, Bobby Duncan, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Yucaipa, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of July as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Yucaipa. So now we just go ahead and have the Park and Rec folks come up, community services come up.
So we skipped over this one. It's okay, there's no changes to the agenda, but after this, I need you to ask for the closed session report because the attorney is going to need to do that. We already did this one, so we'll go closed session report and then public comment.
I've done that already.
That's okay.
Where's our proclamation? Okay.
So we're gonna do closed session report.
I just found out that I needed to lead the meeting at the last minute, so I haven't done this in a while, and so I apologize. So, special presentation. So at this time, I'd like to close the closed session and ask the city attorney, is there anything to report out of the closed session?
I thought you'd never ask, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, by a vote of 4-0, with Mayor Beaver absent, the city council voted to reject the claims of the individuals listed on the agenda, which are numerous, so I'm not going to read them aloud. But all of those were related to a traffic collision that occurred on the I-10 near the Pumpkin Patch in October. Thank you.
Do we have any changes to our agenda tonight, Mr. City Manager?
No changes, sir.
No changes, okay. So then that brings us to public comment, and we have, I think, 10 speakers. I'd like to remind you that Matt Garner, the Councilmember Garner, is going to keep track of the time. I'd like you to be respectful at 3 minutes to cut it off, and be respectful of us, and we'll be respectful of you. The first speaker is Joanna Yanni. Did I say that right? Yes, maybe?
Yes, I live on Princeton Drive, which,
Come to the mic.
Hello, I live on Princeton Drive, and recently we had a fatal shooting, basically a drive-by shooting, which I think a lot of people assume was probably gang-related, and that puts us very much on edge. And so we're interested in things we can do to deter crime. And one of the things we've come up with is speed bumps, which will slow down any getaway cars if that's the situation we find ourselves in again. Also, it will, if people are driving more slowly through the neighborhood, then they're going to be more aware if there's anything going on that's suspicious. And it will also protect children from being injured by automobiles that are going through the neighborhood recklessly. And I do feel that we should be taken, it's a special consideration because I don't think there are many neighborhoods in Yucaipa that have had, the experience we had of a recent fatal drive-by shooting. And I read there is a neighborhood traffic calming program in Yucaipa that was implemented in 2007, which addresses traffic issues on residential streets, including safety-related issues, and it includes policies to address requests for speed bumps. So we're interested in having that explored. That's it.
Did you guys get all that? Is there anything we need to do with that this time? Okay, thank you so much for your comments. We really appreciate them. Next is John Almquist.
How are you doing? I'm up here for basically the same issue on Princeton Drive where we had the fatal drive-by shooting and where we've had issues with fast drivers on a street with a lot of children. So we'd like to make an appeal for speed bumps on Princeton Drive, if we could. So I think Joanna really said the most.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate your comments. And we got that too, right, on Princeton Drive? Okay, Richard Frost is next.
How you doing? My name is Rich Oliveras. I just moved in the neighborhood about a year and a half ago, Princeton Drive, retired Department of Corrections. And Princeton Drive has a downgrade coming down, and it's pretty fast. I call it the Princeton Drive Challenge. I just come down just without pushing the gas, and I was already at 30 miles, and I live in the middle of the street. And also Townsend Way comes around and meets through Princeton, and traffic is coming pretty fast. A lot of families are outside that get along. They're playing with their children in the corners, and my head's on a swivel, going back and forth. And we can have those signs out, drive like your children live here, but that helps a little. But those cars are coming, and speed bumps would help a lot right there. I mow my own lawn. I stand right there and I'm just watching cars just zooming right there, and all the children play together, and kids are going to be kids. Ball's going to go out to the street, and that's what I'm talking to the neighbors, and I'm doing this. Okay, car, you know, and it's just a real busy street, and it's the downgrade. I didn't have my foot on that gas, and the downgrade took me to about almost 30 miles an hour by the time I hit my house. If you have a couple of speed bumps before you hit that downgrade on Townsend and Princeton, it'll slow a lot of the traffic down. And there's a lot of cars going through there. I'm outside trimming grass, and I see a lot of traffic, and speed bumps is a ticket. I like to bring up where I'm from. There was an intersection, and it took, I don't know how many people have died in that intersection, to finally put a traffic stoplight right there. It took years and years, and you see all the crosses and all the lights right there that people put for all the deaths. And it took almost 20 years finally to put for a farm labor to cross over. I mean, many accidents seen happen in that corner. It kind of reminds me of that. If it's going to take somebody to get hit with a car to put speed bump, they shouldn't, this is for children, you know. And I use that as an example because it took a long time to put traffic light in that intersection. It took a few deaths. And Princeton Drive, I think the biggest problem is the downgrade. And people don't realize it till they get down there and they're speeding up and they have their foot on that gas pedal. And it's just something I think that street needs, speed bumps. There's a lot of kids right there. You can take a drive down there, all the families get along, they're all playing on their front yards, you know. And my kid walks to the corner and plays with the kids. And we need speed bumps. There's no doubt about it. And I know there's speed bumps over there by that kindergarten. There's a long street, I can't remember the name of the street, but there's speed bumps on there. Time's up. But speed bumps,
So just for the record, that was Richard Oliveras.
Oliveras, yeah, you come forward or something.
Okay, and so Richard Frost is next. Is Richard still here?
Yeah, Richard Frost, 3rd Street, yeah. Yeah, I had three things. It's nice that they've paved California Street and Wildwood Canyon. Wildwood Canyon really needed it. And also, the other night, week before last, I was around uptown. I was on California Street, and there were motorcyclists going back and forth, and there were cars driving around the traffic circles, and and just kind of speeding back and forth, and like, it was almost like a semi-street takeover or something, but it was some kind of vehicle convention or something like that. I remember I had to kind of jump when this motorcycle came by and started revving his engine up when I was, but the next night it was a little quieter. I only saw one motorcycle do a wheelie on California Street, and other people have commented about that too. That's because there's not that much traffic up there, and they have those traffic circles they can spin around in, and also then there's the a lot of people shop at the 4th Street Shopping Center on Yucaipa and 4th. That's where Stater Brothers and Rite Aid is. And the other day I was walking from Rite Aid over to Stater Brothers, and somebody came up to me with one of those COVID masks on. He asked me if I was a customer there. I said yes, and I asked him why he asked me. And he said, well, they're having trouble with people hanging out in the parking lot, so we're supposed to check on that. And I thought that was kind of interesting. So I went over to one of the stores, and I asked him about that. And I got an earful, and the person told me that this person's been coming around and asking questions and bothering the employees, and they're just supposed to ask if they needed any help. Instead, he's, I don't know, just kind of irritating people. And one of them said they were doing a cash, a cash count from the cash register, and that he came up to them and asked why they had so much money in their hands. And they asked him where this person came from. They said, well, they were having problems, so they called the county, and the county sent him over. And he'd been there just 2 days, and they said they were, and I talked to a couple of people, different stores, and they said they were just kind of fed up, but, they were gonna call and have somebody else, send somebody else over there. They had one person there, but he was, I guess he got so old, I guess he retired or something like that. But I guess it's just those transients hanging out in all those parking lots, so it was kind of, but anyway.
Okay, thanks, Richard. We appreciate your comments. Kathy Sellers.
Hi, guys. Kathy Sellers, District 1. I'm requesting the City Council come up with an ordinance addressing what I'm about to say, and I want to address Mayor Beaver, even though he's not here tonight. I know he'll listen. I would like to rebut your accusation that the recall petition is full of lies, but since a lawsuit has been filed, that is not possible. You could have taken it upon yourself in a recall debate to disprove those statements that you feel are false and misleading. Your comment that the city clerk initiated the lawsuit and you became aware of it through a press release is unbelievable. Either you're being dishonest or you have lost control of the city manager, something you promised us all would never happen. Let's talk about your statement that if you lie in your professional career, you could be fired as a dishonest cop. My husband, Bill, spent 40 years as an honest cop and supervising district attorney investigator. He was appalled when you lashed out and threatened the people who signed the petition as a violation of the California Penal Code and a civil violation, as well as a misdemeanor to submit false information. You know full well that is absolute nonsense on stilts. As a cop, you would have no probable cause to arrest, much less cite any of the citizens for the statements made on that recall petition. You're twisting the language in the election code to suit your narrative. That kind of voter intimidation rhetoric is an example of why you are being recalled. For you to insinuate a crime has been committed is an extreme lack of good judgment on your part. Public office is no place for the thin-skinned. The U.S. Supreme Court reasoned that the First Amendment protects statements about public officials, even if erroneous, as inevitable in free debate and must be protected if the freedoms of expression are to have the breathing space they need to survive. The Ralph M. Brown Act allows citizens to make public comments and specifically allows criticisms of the acts or omissions of the legislative body. Therefore, such a comment is privileged and not actionable, even if false and only if malice is shown. There is no malice on the part of the citizens in this action. The city clerk in her press release said the statements on the petition are technically correct. If false and misleading statements on a campaign document are grounds for prosecution, Duncan and Garner would be in hot water months ago. Let's not even go into the dishonest things spread during campaigns promulgated by Chris Mann Communications. Perhaps we should speak to Shelley Milne and Angela Valles, who complained about the vicious lies that Mann Communications used in their past political races. Ms. Valles stated in a Victorville Daily Press article, quote, "The truth is that man is merely a hired gun willing to smear Republicans so long as he gets paid to do it. For the lot of you to cry foul and file a lawsuit aimed at stopping the recall is the epitome of hypocrisy. The inconvenient truth is that you messed up and allowed your sense of unlimited power or authority to guide your decisions that are now being called into question. Sadly, you will never regain credibility at this juncture and are continuing to add insult to injury. Truth and respect are the two easiest things in life for someone to lose and the hardest things to get back. Please enact an ordinance that addresses what I've said."
Folks, if you do that again, I will ask the chief of police to escort you out. Now, this is a civil meeting, a public meeting. There's no clapping, and I won't tolerate it. I promise you I won't tolerate it. If you do it one more time, I'll have you guys escorted out of here. So the next speaker is Lloyd Rexted.
It is so disheartening to have to come to this meeting and stand before you tonight and repeat the message that you absolutely refuse to acknowledge, but we must. We're not going away. Two of you come from professions purporting to uphold law and order, but the actions of this council are far from that. How do you reconcile that? One of you claims to have moved to Yucaipa in the name of ministry to comfort the souls of the community, a man of the cloth with a heart for ministry. Bobby, I direct my comments to you. Lest you sit there thinking we in the community are being so judgmental, it must be noted in the Sermon on the Mount, Christ specifically said, "Judge not, or you will be judged." But he further said, "By their fruit you will know them." We in the community tonight are not here to be judges. We're here to be fruit inspectors. There's a difference. The fruit, much of the fruit that we see coming from this city council stinks. It's rotten. Yucaipa deserves to be represented by people of transparency and dignity. Resistance to you and your style of leadership is not going away. Resistance is growing. The word on the street is our city council is out of control, like a runaway train. Hiring the new city manager was the first indication that you will do whatever you wish. We wish you would listen and show that you are hearing the voices of the community, but you refuse. As Bobby so eloquently stated, he receives public comment as blah, blah, blah. Those are your words. Until you demonstrate transparency and clarity in your actions, going back to the January 9th closed session, the anger and resistance in this community will continue to grow. The current city manager is illegitimate. Until you acknowledge that fact and reverse that hire, you will be under constant and increased fire. And furthermore, when you start using public money to protect your personal interests, you are no longer public servants. When the judge determines that the original recall petition is valid, you should be totally responsible for paying all the legal fees incurred by Anna Salcedo. Well-respected legal minds who have weighed in on the issue of public officials trying to sue private citizens are on record as saying it's very difficult for public officials to prevail on a statement that they claim is defamatory. The three of you are going to fail in your efforts to block the recall, and I believe you will go down in the actual vote. You deserve to be voted out of office, and we clapped for the Park and Recreation Department, and it was led by the City Council.
Thank you, sir.
I just
appreciate
want to
your
remind
comment.
you of that.
So how do I deal with that? What's that? Joel McCabe.
Joel McCabe, District 1. With transparency being what the city of Yucaipa wants, it seems as though this is a very cloudy area. Matter of fact, it's not transparent at all. This council has had 6 months to come clean about the so-called retirement of Ray Casey. Mayor and council, why did Ray Casey retire so abruptly? Be transparent for the first time. We know there is a plan. There was a plan. If you don't come clean, this will forever be scandalous, especially with Mr. Graham and Mr. Mann present the night of January 9th. Did the new council pressure Ray Casey to a forced retirement or threaten termination because he would not approve your future radical moves? Could it have been because the new council has a 3-vote path of domination? Mayor Beaver, did you feel you had the almighty power to make an individual change that was force-fed to the citizens of Yucaipa? Did you include your council members in this decision, or were you just a rogue cowboy? Based on your tones and words stated to Mr. George Sardison in rebuttal to his public comment, I firmly believe you're on a power trip. Please answer George Sardison's question tonight. Who authorized the Sutton Law Group to serve the petitioners, and who's paying for it? It wasn't the mayor, so who's going to stand up and answer the question? Mr. Mann? Councilman Garner, District 1 sees right through you. You started to confuse voters at election time with mailers full of lies regarding your stance in District 1 and slandering other opponents of false accusations. It goes far beyond that. I see it. Your relationships with the Heaps family of premium land development and their friends is wildly insane and obvious. Anyone can connect the dots. You nominate Donna Snodgrass for the Planning Commission. She's in the Heaps camp, sits within almost every city council. Her vote to approve the Heaps Serrano Estate project is questionable at best based on her business relationship with Craig Heaps and affiliation with the Yucaipa Wine Alliance. You voted yes to 2 highly controversial projects yourself, the Heaps Serrano Estates and the 2nd Street apartment complex projects. Open space and rural living as advertised, right, Mr. Garner? 2 weeks ago, you appointed both Brandy Hickman Hicks to the Healthy Yucaipa Committee and Travis Heaps to the Trails and Open Space Committee. Craig Heaps is currently in the Economic Development Advisory Committee. The Heaps sure have a lot of fingers in the Yucaipa pie. With much public scrutiny and outcry and requests to modify these projects, I remind the council that Craig Heaps intimidated this council by threats and bullying to pass these projects. At least 3 of you said you were scared of what would happen if you didn't vote yes. What qualified councilman would be scared? If you don't know the right questions to ask or are pressured to vote by intimidation, you are not qualified to sit in that chair. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna call public comment over. I'm not gonna tolerate that. I'm not gonna tolerate that. Otherwise, I'm gonna cancel the meeting and go home.
Mayor Pro Tem, how many, excuse me. Mayor Pro Tem, how many more slips do we have?
Well, I've got speakers for item number 17, but I've got 3 more.
And I think the city clerk may have a couple more for you. Mayor Pro Tem, I would recommend that you admonish the audience not to disrupt the meeting.
You'd recommend what?
That you admonish the audience not to disrupt the meeting, but I do recommend that you finish calling public comment for the time allotted.
Otherwise what?
I'm going by the rules of decorum that the city council has adopted. If we did enter a period where the audience was disrupting the meeting such that it could not continue, you could certainly order the room cleared, and public comment would therefore cease. I understand the audience is trying to push your buttons, sir, but I do think that if they're keeping the applause brief, they're not interrupting any speaker or interrupting you while you're speaking, I think it'd be better to let the public comment finish.
Okay, I'll go based on your advice. Hanson Wong, please.
Good evening, Hanson Wong, 35150 Court Street in Yucaipa. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I just want to conclude what I've been talking about for the last few city council sessions. So in light of the fact that Mr. Mann has brought his goals, especially about transparency, I would like to make some comments about the different areas about housing projects. I know that some of you care deeply about housing projects one way or another. I know that some of you feel that it's necessary, and I know that some of the rest of you think it's just a job that you have to do. So, first of all, with transparency, I think it's up to our city planner and his staff to present what is normally the goals of the general plan for a particular project as well as the codes. In addition, then he can add what accounts for bonus density quotas in housing and what the particular owner, entitlement specialist, and or developer would need to do to comply with having these things done in order to get the bonus housing. So that the city planner would present first of the things that are normally under the general plan. Secondly, what is available through bonus housing and what needs to be done. In addition, that's what he should make the planning commission accountable for. Not the fact that they feel that the budget needs to be taken care of during their meeting, not adding certain things that have not been approved by the city council. And I think all of these are important for him to clarify. And then if a particular project is brought up to the city council that has been refused and denied multiple times by the city council and by the planning commission, that it should be very transparent as to the just causes why this was brought up again, as well as the exact reasons for allowing code changes to a particular area just for that one project and not the entire area. So I think that we're not being entirely transparent. We are allowing people to go ahead and dictate to us what the city needs. We, the people of Yucaipa, needs the transparency, and you need to do your part in making sure that you no longer will be obsolete. Otherwise, if they do what they want, we don't need the city council, we don't need the planning, and we don't need the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. We appreciate your comments. Colleen Wong is next.
Colleen Wong, 35150 Court Street. Since the election in January, our city council has acted with what seems a set agenda. Nothing has dissuaded them from their course of more concentrated development. So a recall was launched against 3 of the 5 members. This was not an easy decision to make on the part of the citizens. Recalls are rarely successful and they take a lot of work and a lot of money. You have heard why is needed from lots of our citizens. What you haven't heard is that the council's taking aggressive action to stop the recall. Rather than making the case to Yucaipa, they are instead choosing outright voter intimidation. They claim the city clerk, brought on board by Mr. Mann, filed a writ to stop the recall for misinformation. However, the city hired the lawyers for this action, therefore it is the city filing the writ. The city is suing all 200 of us who signed the recall. This is a move straight out of Mann Communications. For months, citizens have spoken out with concerns about Mr. Mann. We're concerned that Mr. Mann would display the lack of moral and ethics practiced in his PAC at our city hall. So the citizens file a recall and somehow someone suggests to the council that they sue to stop it. This has never been done by anyone in the state of California, but here we are. Good job there. Were the errors in the recall paperwork? Maybe. Mr. Beaver, for instance, I don't think had a lot of money from developers during his run for the council seat, but he sure helped Mr. Garner and Mr. Venerable get and use money for their campaigns when he helped them win by speaking out on their behalf. So they're
May need to be some changes, a word here and there. That needs to be corrected as a signer. The recall, that was never presented as a fact to me, but then I signed the papers for Mr. Gardner. And everything said about him is true and much more. He needs to be recalled. He hasn't kept a single promise that he made during his run for the office, and he's voted for every single high-density project. In addition, he's made it abundantly clear that he likes to poke the bear back. Good job with the heaps. Because there were errors in the paperwork, several individuals tried to withdraw their signatures from the recall paperwork as suggested by Mr. Predetto. That would have stopped this recall. The lawyers refused to accept the withdrawals. They want to take this to court. Then, of course, they will ask the judge to assign the attorney costs to the recall effort, outright voter intimidation. If it is about misinformation, get it corrected and let democracy continue. Make your case or leave office, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Beaver, and Mr. Duncan. You do the city a favor.
Thank you for your comments. Thomas Flores.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Flores, and I've lived in Yucaipa for 21 years, raised my children here. It's a wonderful city, getting a little crowded, but not too bad. I do have a concern that has probably been brought up before. I may not be the only one. Parked my car, went into Dollar Tree, was sitting shopping in there, and someone comes out and says that a golf ball flew an errant golf ball and shattered our Genesis sunroof, which was about $1,900 in damage. Went to the golf course, see if there was any action, ignored us, wrote them an email, ignored us, called them, ignored us. So to me, I'm thinking, you know, there's a gap on T7 that's across the street from the Dollar Tree. And so it's a design flaw. So there's two nets and then a gap and then another net. Well, those balls fly through that gap and kill somebody. It's going to injure somebody. So obviously there's some kind of flaw. And if the city approved the plans for that, then the city needs to come and reevaluate, or someone needs to reevaluate it, because somebody's going to get injured, someone's going to get hurt. And so I put it on Facebook, let people know what's going on, and I've had multiple people say, oh, I was in the same parking lot. Another person said last year in the parking lot, golf ball came and hit my windshield. Other people have talked. I have another car a couple of years ago, got hit by a golf ball, same on the actual road. So I'm not sure who to bring it to, so I'm here today to just kind of throw it out there, or do I bring it to so are you guys able to talk back?
No.
Or do you just listen? So I'm not sure who to take it to. Do I take it to the city building safety? Obviously, when I'm a pastor of a church in Riverside, and when I built our sanctuary, I had to go through building safety, and they checked everything. So obviously, they approved the things I had to have. So I would believe that the golf course should have some. And I'm sure there's people in the audience that have had golf balls fly by them. I'm probably not the only one. So I just wanted to throw that out there and see if there's anything that's possible to at least put some pressure on the golf course to reevaluate the netting so someone doesn't get injured or killed. That would be a tragedy. And so I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your comments. Thomas Flores. What's that? I can't hear what you're saying.
That was the previous speaker, sir.
Okay, Danny Macias.
Hello. I'm here to talk about the Princeton and Townsend, the grade coming down for speed bumps. A lot of cars do go down there fast. I'm raising 5 grandkids, me and my wife, and have she's 5 years old now, and she's learning how to ride a bike. And the front yards are small, so she's on the sidewalk, but she has no control yet. I mean, she's thinking about where she's going, trying to go straight, and then how to do the brake. So every now and then she goes in the street. She don't go off the. She don't go through the driveway. She goes off the curb, hit my tree a couple of times, ran into me. You know, I got a black toe out of it. But she's so she goes to the street. So I'm on the street though. I don't let her go. I'm out there keeping an eye on her. But every now and then, here comes a car, and she like panics, and she comes to me. Just for some reason, she comes straight at me. I tell her go to the driveways, but she comes to me. So we're still toast now when she's out there riding her bike. But I have her in, because the cars come down fast. She's just afraid, which I understand. But I do not let my kids go outside alone. I'm always with them. They want to, I want them to be normal kids. Have what we all did when we were kids. Play baseball. We play baseball with the ball, the plastic bat and all. They play kickball. They play, they do water balloon fights. And I'm a target a lot, So they just want to do what kids do. But it's hard when you have cars coming by fast, I don't know if they realize how fast they're coming down the street. When I go down a neighborhood, I always be cautious about it, even though it's downhill and all. And a lot of these cars aren't that way. They just zoom on by, because it's a long straightaway once they go by. So I just want to show my concern that, speed bumps will at least slow it down a little. And there was a lot of kids, and I got, 3 more? I got one that's 2, so she'll be a little while before she starts learning how to bike. But I got other kids that are learning. And like I said, the sidewalks are small, and I don't know how many dents my car has. And, and got rid of my flowers. But it's a lot. It's just a safety concern before something serious happens. So I just want to bring it up and try to be ahead of it and see what we can do about it. That's it. Okay.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Denise Work.
Good evening. I'm Denise Work, 37202 Lime Kiln Drive, and I'll just ditto the other speakers expressing their concerns about the city's involvement in retaliation, it seems, to those voters who wish to express their problems that they have with the city council's decisions. And I would like to ask you all to think about the not just voter intimidation, but not to be afraid of a recall. If you've done nothing wrong, then the recall will not be successful. So spending taxpayer money, which I think is illegal in the first place, to sue the residents for initiating it, I just think that I would just ask that you think about backing off of that. But that isn't even why I came up here. I actually came because I just wanted to thank Fermin. And I came in and talked to Jackie. I know he was ill for a while, and he looks better. But I wanted to thank him, and there was a problem with some debris that was left on a piece of property that we own, and it needed to be cleaned up, and it was a kind of a long story, but it was the city that had moved this debris on there, and then it hadn't been cleaned up, and it'd been several months. So anyway, finally got cleaned up last week, and I'm very appreciative of that. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Tim Weathers? Give us your address, please, if you don't mind.
34577 Princeton Drive. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, staff, our Sergeant at Arms. I here want to speak in support of my neighbors and the request that the city at least look into the possibility of some traffic slowing measures on the street. It is a very fast street. It's a long stretch, relatively speaking, and people do come down that grade at an increased speed, either knowing it or not knowing it, and then they wanted to get a nice takeoff from the bottom coming back up sometimes. And the spot we're at, we kind of get that get that maximum effective speed as they come through. It's not the first incident we've had with a speed problem on the street. And I support my neighbors asking the city to at least look into something that could be done for the safety of the children in the neighborhood, a deterrence for a speedway, a deterrence for crime to come through as an easy way to get. We did have a very easy getaway for somebody several weeks ago. We just need something done to make the street a little safer. I almost lost my family one night because of somebody speeding. I'm lucky. We got lucky that night. Anyway, sorry, but I want to support my neighbors and let them know I'm here to support them as well. So thank you for the opportunity. You have a nice night. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Gene Weathers? Please tell us your address, please.
34577 Princeton Drive. I'm the other half of the last speaker. We want to support our neighbors and also ask you to maybe look at our street for the speed safety concerns, maybe some speed bumps, something. From the top where campus starts or Townsend, people gain speed, and by the time they get halfway down the street, they're already going, I'm guessing 50 miles an hour or more sometimes. Or they'll start at the other end, which is a dead end, and come flying up the street too by the time they hit us. So there's a lot of kids, yes, but also I go to the mailbox and I see other people just trying to cross the street, and you have to kind of look 3 times to make sure someone's not really, coming out of the blue really fast down the street. And it curves around. We did have somebody who hit a vehicle in front of our house about 17 years ago on the wrong side. So and they do, when you go up the street, they'll come down on the actual other side of the street because they're not gauging, how it kind of has a slight turn and they're gaining speed. So by down there, they're really going fast, and they could be on the opposite side of the road by that time too. So I just wanted to reiterate what everybody else's concerns are, and we have a whole bunch of people that have kids, like they said, and pedestrians, I think, and other cars that are parked there that have been hit, so by speeders or people who are just not figuring out how that road works. It's a long road and it does have curves, so I just want to bring that to your attention too and support our neighbors, and hopefully maybe something can be done. Thank you for your time.
Comments.
Thank you.
So would it make any sense to go ahead and just kind of have a brief description of our traffic calming program? There's been a lot of comments here tonight about Princeton.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Yeah, as a result of the public comments received, we will add this speeding-related concern for both Princeton Drive and Townsend. And essentially, as one of the speakers mentioned, back in 2008, the City Council adopted the city's neighborhood traffic calming program, which as mentioned, it's meant to log and address speeding and safety concerns on residential streets. This Princeton Drive and Townsend do qualify for the program because they are residential streets. And as part of that process, I believe the City Council has taken action on 12 phases of that program so far. And as part of the process, we evaluate these concerns that are received. We have a local stop sign and speed hump warrant policy that we have to collect some field data to be able to run, to analyze these requests. And as you're aware, we do need a warrant or a legal document that allows the city to install traffic calming devices such as stop signs, speed humps, and you have seen that we have installed several speed bumps throughout the city. First, we install the temporary ones as a temporary measure, and then based on the feedback from the neighbors, if they feel that they are addressing the concern, then those become permanent. So we, as I mentioned, we will log this concern as part of the program, and we'll evaluate it as part of the next phase, which you should be reviewing the staff's recommendations summer as part of the next phase.
Thank you. So that's all the public speakers I have under public comment. That
Mr.
brings
Mayor?
us to consent agenda. We have
Mr. Mayor,
six.
Pro Tem,
What's that?
if I may, I'd like to say a few things. We've had a number of comments the last couple of meetings, including tonight, regarding the lawsuit having to do with the notice of intention for the recall. In addition, you may have seen a front-page article in the News Mirror last week on that topic, which basically restated comments that were made during the public comment portion of the last meeting. Unfortunately, the city was not reached out to for comment on that story. And so for that reason, and again, because of the comments we heard that are tonight that are repeating basically comments that were made last meeting, I'd like to address the issue of the lawsuit, if you don't mind. The lawsuit was based on new law that went into effect in January of this year, new state law that was put into place by the passage of Assembly Bill 84. The legislative intent of that bill was clear. It gave residents tools to combat abuses of the recall process and to ensure that voters are not misled. Any resident or the elections official may seek a writ of mandate and or an injunction to strike statements included in a recall petition that are false or misleading. The California State Assembly analysis of AB 2584 states, the practical effect of these provisions means that voters will be given the opportunity to address false, slanderous, or libelous material in the statement or answer, and potentially gives the court the opportunity to order changes to those materials before the recall proceeds. In addition, and separate from AB 2584, case law has clearly established that petitions must provide information that is sufficient to enable voters to intelligently evaluate whether to sign them, and to avoid confusion. That's a long way of saying that while people absolutely right to pursue the recall of elected officials, there does not exist a right to lie or otherwise mislead the voters. Recently, there was a letter to the editor by former Mayor and Councilman Dick Riddell. He says, quote, "I am alarmed by what I have seen and heard about the tactics being used to crush the recall efforts in the city of Yucaipa." He then goes on for 4 paragraphs talking about an anonymous letter that went out, which frankly has nothing to do with the city. I don't believe anyone at City Hall had any knowledge of that letter until after the fact when screenshots were sent to council members and staff. But he closes by insinuating that the council has hired a lawyer and is spending taxpayer money to fight the recall effort. For someone like Dick Riddell, who should know better because he served on the city council for years and therefore should understand how these things work, these comments are disappointing and irresponsible. This city has not, is not, nor has the legal ability to engage on one side of the recall effort or the other. City Hall is absolutely neutral. The lawsuit is strictly about protecting voters from being lied to and misled by the objectively false and misleading statements that were made on the recall petitions. The lawsuit, if successful, will strike this language. The lawsuit will not and cannot prevent recall proponents from moving forward with a recall attempt. But we have no intention of knowingly allowing them to circulate false and misleading information on official elections documents. You know, for the past 5, going on 6 months, a group of residents in this community have been pretty critical of some of the decisions made by the city council and of me, your new city manager. I think there have been some valid points made. The vast majority of what has been said has been incorrect. I believe what happened, that a well-meaning group of residents who really care about this community were genuinely concerned about the changes that were happening in the city and what might be motivating those changes. And I think that theories were formed based on little more than Google searches, and those theories were then turned into attacks that were launched against members of this council and myself as your city manager. It's been disappointing to me, though, that with one exception, Dr. Wong, none of these people launching attacks at me personally and about my former company have bothered to reach out, have bothered to ask for a meeting. I'll meet with anyone who asks to meet with me. I think it's irresponsible. I extend an invitation to anyone who has concerns about my portion of any of this to come and meet with me. I'll meet with you individually. I'll meet with you as a group. But the lies have to stop. It's fair game to say, I don't like how my elected officials voted on this policy. I don't like this project. I don't like the decisions they made on their staffing. That's fair game. But to make up information and to launch attacks based on that misinformation is irresponsible. And I refuse to accept that it is somehow inappropriate for a city to put out information to try to correct those misstatements. Thank you.
Where's the clapping? You're not allowed to do that here.
Mayor, you have an individual who is speaking without being recognized. I would recommend that you admonish him to quit disrupting the meeting.
You recommend what?
That you admonish him to quit disrupting the meeting.
Okay. If you do it again, I'm going to have you removed.
May I speak again?
I'm sorry?
May I speak again?
That's not part of the process. That's not part of the process. On from public comment. We've moved on for public comment. But nobody clapped when he spoke. I'm not sure why. I was looking for the clapping. Anyway, okay, so that brings us to our consent agenda.
Have a good night, Mr. Duncan. Thanks for your answer, Mr. Mann.
Okay, that brings us to our consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that you would like to have removed, or any of you would like to have removed for discussion?
No.
No? Okay, we have 16 on the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it. I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Did I do that right? Okay, good. Well, I'm working off two lists here, so I'm trying to make sure I get my times recorded if I need to. Okay, so that concludes the consent agenda. That brings us to mayor and council member business reports. Are there anything that report? Sir?
No.
No?
No. What justifies us having speed bumps and stuff? I mean, do we lose a family, or is that make it? I mean, I don't understand. I mean, we've had this discussion before on my street, speeding, and we stop sign there because we have to go through a motion to get things done, and we have a lot of concerns. And
yeah, so receiving these concerns initiates the process, and as part of the warrant process, a speed hump warrant process, we collect some field data based on the number of cars traveling the street, the data on the speeds, and then there's a list of criteria that need to be met, and then if those are met, then that warrants a speed hump to be installed. But as I mentioned, the neighborhood traffic calming program is only meant for residential streets, and for those streets that are classified as collectors, we are unable to process a speed hump request through that. So we have to look at other traffic calming measures outside of the program, such as additional enforcement or other that. So for this specific one, again, we will process it, and we do have a handful of other speeding concerns that we have received that are going through the same process to analyze them for speed.
how do we expedite this one?
A week.
Is it? What's the process? I mean, what's the time frame? I mean, does it take?
So one of the, because we do need to collect these field counts, the traffic counts, we collect those counts in the spring or in the fall when school is in session. And then the following months, for example, this year in the spring, we did collect some counts. We're going through the analysis right now to put together a recommendation that will come before the city council later this summer. And again, it's something once a year. So it's driven by the fact that we can only collect the traffic counts when school is in session.
Now, can we put the speed bumps out there in the meantime while we're doing all this, and just to kind of slow people down a little bit? I mean, our
Councilmember, maybe I can jump in just for a second on it. We've had several closed sessions now about liability that the city is alleged to have incurred because of traffic collisions that happen on the roads throughout the community. One of the things that we have in the state of California, and frankly all over the nation, are these requirements for introducing traffic calming measures, stop signs, speed bumps, things like that. And the reason for that is that when they are installed in places that don't meet those requirements, so things like volume, when you're talking about stop signs, conflicting traffic, when you take a stop sign and you just put it in a residential neighborhood that has low volume and low speed, compliant stop sign actually drops. People just start running stop signs. And when people run stop signs, people get injured, seriously. So it's kind of counterintuitive, but there are certain types of measures that could actually practically make the streets less safe, but also could increase the liability on the city. So for example, if we installed stop signs in a location that didn't meet the established requirements that engineering follows, someone was to get injured or, heaven forbid, killed, someone could bring a lawsuit against the city alleging that the city's improper installation of that traffic control device led to liability for the city. I understand the frustration. I'm currently dealing with the same thing in my neighborhood. I'm going to the city council meeting saying, we need a crosswalk, please. And I'm getting the same thing from that engineering department. So I totally understand the frustration, but that is the process in place, not only to keep people safe, but also to ensure he's protected to what it can from liability.
okay. And what about the golf course that we were talking about? Has anybody ever complained about that before?
So that is the first time I've heard about the golf course issue, but I'm almost certain that every golf course has similar issues with errant golf balls. It's the cost of doing business if you install a golf course. So I think that what we're going to do, though, is take that issue seriously. Look at, are we getting more golf ball complaints off course than we would expect? And if necessary, we can reach out to the golf course about looking to remedy that. That being said, a significant amount of engineering goes in when these golf courses are first established. I don't know how many people on the dais are listening are golfers, but
I am.
you can't predict where every ball is going to go. So they do rely on probability and analysis. It would be cost prohibitive to put the whole thing. That wouldn't have a very aesthetic look. But in any case, it's certainly something that can be looked at, and the city can determine if maybe conditions have changed that would warrant having a look at that. I don't know if staff has anything further to add.
Yes, and if I may add, a few years ago, we did work with the golf course because we did receive some phone calls about golf balls that we noticed that their netting was in pretty bad shape. So we reached out to them and worked with them to replace the existing netting that was installed when the golf course was built, to replace that. Did not add any new netting, but we do have a relationship with the golf course, and we will be reaching out to them to let them know that we did receive this concern.
All right, thank you. And then we can let them know that they can reach out to you about their street when you guys are going to run that.
For the traffic calming program, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, staff added one of the pages from our traffic calming program to the back of the room, and some of our staff is getting the information from the public as we're leaving.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? No? Okay, so that brings us to item number 17. I think that's Jennifer.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. This is a fun part of the meeting because this is the community activity grant that comes around once a year. It's for the upcoming fiscal year 23-24. This grant has been in existence and was established by council back in 2010. The overall goal of the program is to support local nonprofits with their projects and programs and to account for how the city's funds are spent to do that project or program. On March 13th of this year, council reviewed the program and directed budget $17,500 for financial grants and $40,000 for in-kind grants for the upcoming cycle. This is a very popular program. We received 22 grant applications that are listed in summary on pages 172 through 175 of the packet. In addition, we wanted to make note, there is a section in the budget for non-department, not-for-profit. This is separate from the community activity grant, and this was established several years ago, and it addresses nonprofits in the community that do ongoing projects on an annual basis that benefit and enhance city services. So of the community activity grants you have this evening, only one grant entity or nonprofit entity up there, which is the Family Service Association of Redlands. Do you have an additional grant request through the CAG program? Also included is a financial award grant tracker sheet on the back of the packet in page 401 and 402. And that just details for you financial grants that have been awarded for the past 12 years. So I know it's going to be a tough decision tonight for you because there's only so much money to go around, both in the financial and nonprofit, but you may want to look at the amount of financial contribution made to some of these nonprofits throughout the past 12 years and determine if you want to continue to fund them or fund new programs that are being proposed. In addition, I included a prioritization worksheet, which I have up here on the screen to help you out. That's on pages 404 and 405. In-kind grants before you tonight total $53,311, which exceeds the total funds available, $15,311. Total amount requested for financial support is $46,707, exceeding the total funds available by $29,207. So you do have some work before you this evening. So at this time, I will pass it back to you, and you may want to receive public comment at this time.
Yeah, so just a quick question. So it looks like this, obviously, we've got a lot more than I've ever seen, but I was kind of surprised that the Rotary Club was asking for $12,000 for the parade and then $10,000 for the use of the senior center. Is that something that's new? I mean, have we ever done that before? I know we've given them some.
Well, the Christmas parade is in kind. That's the in-kind side of it. We have supported that through a co-sponsorship with them on an annual basis to do the Christmas parade down the boulevard. And then the other request for $12,334 is to use this senior nutritioner so that the Rotary Club can meet on a weekly basis for their club meetings.
But they've never, the Christmas parades, I mean, that said $1,000 for the Christmas parade last year.
That is a financial commitment on the $1,000 of financial support from the city, and then the other request that is before you is to waive in kind to do the parade route for Public Works, police, fire, to make that a safe and fun event.
Have we done that in the past?
Yes.
I did have that on our printout that we voted on as far as $12,000 for the parade?
Yes, for in kind.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting, okay. Okay, so our first speaker then is going to be Sharon Ring. Please come forward and tell us what your address is and tell us what's on your mind, Sharon.
Sharon Ring, Yucaipa Women's Club. I live in 12874 California Street, space 36. And first, I want to thank the council for the grants that we've received in the past years. We're in a building that's over 100 years old, and we're still in that building, and the money we get from the grants helps us to keep our doors open. So this is a personal thank you, and I hope that we're being considered again this year. Thank you.
Okay, that was brief. Thank you very much. Next speaker is Donna Solomon.
Hello, my name is Donna Solomon, and I am the owner and director of Garden Works for Kids in Yucaipa. The address is 10966 Bryant Street, Yucaipa, California. I again want to thank the council for supporting us. We are kind of the best kept secret in Yucaipa. We were voted for Entrepreneur Business of the Year and received the Spirit Award last year, which is a very highly recognized recognition of nonprofits. And we see over 2,500 kids a month at our location. We not only see toddlers that are learning how to walk, we see mothers with newborns. We, coming out of COVID, studies have shown that we have a high a percentage of children with isolation issues, also anxiety and depression because locked up and weren't allowed to be outdoors. During the COVID, we were allowed to be open, so we were a haven for a lot of the families here. We see a lot of networking going on at our location. We put on events. We are in 10 local districts now. We also supply Garden Works programs, nature programs for autistic and special needs. So we are kind of becoming this hub for children, no matter what the disabilities are. We are asking for money, this grant, to build a special needs autism patio. We see approximately probably 360 kids in wheelchairs that are unable to use their hands, their feet. They're on oxygen, but they're able to garden now, and they're able to do the same programs healthy children do. And we see children being pulled out of that have never been interactive in anything. They come to our garden, and by the end of the program, they're interacting and also doing things that like planting and going through the garden. So we're seeing miracles happen every day at the garden, and that's mostly because the city has allowed us and has supported us and partnered with us to do all that. We are trying to build a special patio designed for wheelchairs, so they have accessibility, special benches that they can go ahead and wheel their wheelchairs, because sometimes we'll get 26 to 40 kids in wheelchairs, and we want to be able to be accessible. That, you know, we can continue to grow and we can continue to offer services to them. So I'm just very appreciative and thankful that you have been there for us through these last 13 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Next is Jane Van Nordstrand.
Good evening. My name is Jane Van Nostrand. I actually live in Calamasa, 10961 Desert Lawn Drive, and this is our incoming president, Lion Ann. We are with the Lions Club of Yucaipa, Lions Club. This is the second year that we have applied for a grant. That being said, we have never done this before because we were always up for a special consideration from the city for reduced rates for using the community center rooms. We prefer to put our money back into the community as opposed to spending $100 just to have a 2-hour meeting. Now we're being pitted against a lot of other service organizations. Sure, we are feeling the pinch and having to put out more money to hold a monthly or a weekly meeting as opposed to giving back to our community. We provide scholarships, we work with YAPs, we feed people that are hungry because we bring in produce and everything. And I'm just asking this council to, A, award us this small amount, our monthly meetings at the community center, or at least think about going back to having the special consideration of the lower fees per hour for your C3 nonprofit service organizations. I'm sure that a lot of these service organizations do not want to ask for money. We would prefer to give you some money, but if you're going to, instead of us $22 for a 2-hour meeting, charge us $100, it really goes into the money that we give back to the community. And I'm sure that the other service organizations kind of feel the same way. So we would prefer to pay you, but this amount is, you know, taking away from the community and the people we serve and we love. So if you can award us this grant, great. If not, at least give consideration to going back to the special considerations for your 501c3 nonprofit organizations and a lower rate for your use of your facilities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't think you're being pitted against them. It's just everybody wants to help. So, but yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So Kathy Miller?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, and this beautiful staff out here. I had a speech, but I'm sitting here and I'm looking to the dollar amount, and I'm actually going to rescind my request for a grant. I'm going to continue to sell snow cones, and hopefully that'll be a little bit more for these lovely people that are out here. And I thank you very much. But like I said, we'll keep selling those snow cones and we'll be fine. Thank you.
Well, I really believe that what you're doing at the elementary school, I had 2 years ago, and I think what you're doing at the elementary school is incredible. And so I don't accept the fact that you want to retract your, anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next speaker is Virginia Cosby.
Good evening. Do you need my address?
Pardon me?
Do you need my address?
I do, yes, ma'am.
3445 Fairview Drive, Yucaipa. And my comments are directed to the council members, past and present. I've been with the Yucaipa Women's Club 24 years and served in many capacities and enjoyed every minute of it. It's a wonderful organization. I've also been active in the Elks Lodge for 22 years, and it's another good organization. I would like to thank the council, as I say, past and present, for their civic, financial, and personal support of both of these great organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Virginia. We appreciate your kind words. Patty Ingram's next.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. First, I want to thank the staff for making the correction on our amounts. We had listed our whole program, which was over 14,000, but we had determined that we could come up to 12,000 of it, so we really were only requesting 2,450, which is the corrected amount up there. And the purpose of our being here today is because the pickleball, as we've explained to you in many other things here, is such a great healthy activity for the community, and its age span is from the small youths at 8 or 10 to we have 80-year-olds out there playing. So it can serve a community, and we've been doing that. And our purpose is, we have two main functions right now in that spreading through instruction, and to the community just to make them aware of it. We have been asked by the high school to help them lead a program to do pickleball at the high school and junior highs, and we've also been in contact with schools like Mrs. Miller here to try to do after-school programs for pickleball for the kids. So we would like to get the equipment that we use, extra nets and balls, to go service these schools at no charge to them so that we can go out and bring pickleball to those groups. And then the other thing was that back in April of 2019, we had Yucaipa Pickleball Community Day. At that event, for those of you who don't know, there was a young 12-year-old who, because his brother was part of the youth program that the city had, and he came and he found pickleball. And I say that because he is now a pro, 19 years old, Yucaipa High graduate, who's now ranked in the top, I think the top 15 men in the nation. And that came from our start of our very first Yucaipa Community Pickleball Day. And we would like another one of those. And to have that, we would also need some help from the city and do a cooperative day like that to expose pickleball to the community. So our main goals are for bringing instruction to the youth and adults. Right now, we're running a program at the community center. We have 14 kids in it and 26 adults. And I think everyone is just thrilled with it. And I do want to thank, I noticed you recognized Park and Rec today, Community Center, but Megan, Nick, Julia, and Gilbert, who all work at the Community Center, they have them for us. So Megan, thank you to your staff for that. We really do appreciate everything that the city has done for pickleball. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. We appreciate your comments. I've been a big supporter of pickleball since the minute I heard about it. Paul Keyhold. Paul, tell us what your address is. Let us know what's on your mind.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. My name is Paul Keelhold. I represent Yucaipa Calamasa Family Assistance, the address 35075 Avenue B. We would like to thank you for the city's assistance in the past. We've made good use of what you've been able to grant us. What we find now is that the fence that you helped us finance last year is being climbed. We need a camera. So that's what the request is for security cameras. The property there on Avenue B is a thrift store and a pantry, and we are subjected more and more to vandalism. And we survive completely on donations, and that's why I asked for your donation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Donna K. Ostrander.
Good evening, gentlemen. I want to first of all thank you for everything you've done from the Rotary Club for all the years, the helping as a partner. We'll first discuss, I know Mr. Duncan is concerned with the one grant. The Senior Center, the Sheriff's Center, for the last 2 years we have met in that center. The Yucaipa Rotary Club is the largest service club in Yucaipa. Our populace is too large for most, so the Senior Center works well for us to meet there. It's 6:45 in the morning. It's very difficult to get something at 6:45 in the morning as far as meetings go. Number two, we are a service club that is service self, and we at Yucaipa Rotary we give out over $20,000 in scholarships every year to the schools. We help numerous seniors financially with their groceries, food. We do a lot of work with the Veterans Association, especially Veteransville in Redlands. And we also, for the, let me see, it was called the work day for Yucaipa. Make a Difference Day. Okay, Make a Difference Day was the day that we chose the senior center. And we had all sorts of, we had our Rotaract kids, from the high school, our Rotaract kids from Crafton College that are all in Rotary. We had ourselves, we all met there, and we tore out over 3 roll-offs of just 3 old trees, old plants, all the old just bark and things that had been our senior center. And if you can tell, we have made it look better since that time. And we, been pulling weeds, and we try to keep it up. Now, because we're excited about our senior center, that we have adopted the senior center as the Adopt a Park program. And out of our money, we will be buying more plants and more little bushes, and we want to put in a couple of benches. We want to make it nice for the seniors, that when they walk up, they feel better about themselves, and maybe they can go read a book under a tree. So that's why we, love to be at the senior center. So if you could grant us something on that, we would appreciate it. Number 2 is the Rotary Club, in conjunction with the city of Yucaipa. I have to.
We know all about
The Christmas
we know
parade.
all about the parade, yeah.
Yes, that we can't do without the help, believe. Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you for
it.
your comments. We appreciate it. Now, I've got one more speaker slip, and it's for item number 24. Christy Muller wants to speak on item 24. So that's all the speaker slips I have for item number 17. Go ahead.
No, so I was gonna, if I have the in-kind grant applicants before you, so if you want to start with in-kind first and then to financial, or we could go financial first and move on to in-kind, and then we'll just track the amounts that you would like to discuss, and so you can see what your totals are in the end.
So on in-kind, typically in the past, we have had $40,000, but we've not really used it all because we haven't had much request.
I think last year we
Did we
used
do it
up
last
all
year?
40,000 and all of the financial. Yes.
Yeah, so this is the first time that Councilmember Garner and Councilmember Vitt have been involved in this. John and I have been involved in this in the past. Notice that he's got a calculator over there, and he's very diligently working out numbers. So for the 2 new council members, in-kind is the services. It's not hard dollars. It's using the facility for free and taking the value of that and applying it toward in-kind services. We've got $40,000. There's $53,311 up there. So we've got to $13,311 off that to reach the number that we need to have. And it's a decision that each one of us can look and decide how much we're going to allocate to each one of those categories. And then we'll get to the hard dollars where we have to do the same thing. That number's 17.5. I'm sure you know that already in your packet. But so where do you want to start? You want to start with John? Or you want to start with, have you given this a lot of thought to where you know exactly what numbers you want to plug in there for the Inland Leaders Charter School? I mean, clearly we're going to have to either offer less to each one, or we're going to have to not give some at all, which I think would probably be a disappointment for some. But go ahead, John.
I don't have it worked out yet, but my first thought is if we're going to do the in-kind, we should start with our people. So we have the Redlands Bicycle Classic, which I know it brings people to our community, but I think we need to work on our folks first. So if we pull that to the side, that gives us this down from 53,000 to almost 40. So at this point, I guess I would say for Redlands, I would say 0. And then
So you're suggesting we go 0 on Redlands Bicycle Classic? Okay.
that way we can kind of get some other, bring our numbers down a little bit. That way we're dealing with first.
So that gives you a little bit to give to the bicycle class. Or do you just want to go 0? Oh, you got more.
So we're how much over? 23? I mean, 12?
So you're about 2436 high.
So why don't we make, go back up again before we?
Which one are you?
Why don't we trim a little bit off of, trim a little bit off of the Yucaipa Valley Art. So let's take that down by 1,000. Yes. And let's take 1,000 off the basketball.
Are you working on Yucaipa youth basketball right now? Is that still 436 high?
Megan does note, and I think I do recall, Al-Anon, it's kind of, it's an area-wide meeting group. They meet here in Yucaipa, but it's not solely for Yucaipa.
Oh.
They do have people from Yucaipa attend, but it's more like a regional, it services multiple cities.
I remember I had some doubts about that the last time when we did a little research and found that that was actually a good organization, but I would take some off of there.
I would, yeah. Let's do that then. Let's drop that down and maybe not cut as much off of the basketball. So if we can split the difference.
Is that it?
Did that work?
Are you good with that, John?
Yep, that works.
Okay, so next is Mr. Venable. You have the opportunity to correct that, either go with what he has there, or you want to change it to change some numbers that equal 40,000.
I would say take the Redlands Classic.
Okay, Redlands, that's taken off already, so that's done.
And so that would leave us at what, 23?
Which one?
If we took the Redlands Classic off.
Well, on John's bid, we gave him 0, so right now you're right at 40,000, which is the allocated amount for the upcoming fiscal year.
Okay.
I can move it up, or?
So you took it off the basketball? What did you take off?
They asked for 4, and we're at 3.
Yeah, Yucaipa Youth Basketball, their request is for 4,080.
Can we take 1,000 and put that back there and take 1,000 off of Allion? I don't want to sacrifice any of our Yucaipa. So I wouldn't take anything off the basketball, and I would take that off of, if you took off 2,000 off Allion, or 20, what was left over after the basketball, 2,300? If you took the 2,300 off of Allion, all of Yucaipa's, it's money, right? Yes. So take off Redlands, take the rest of it off Allion.
Put the rest of it where?
Take the rest of it off of Allion.
The one at the top.
But it was at 23, that would, 2,300.
And that,
That puts me at 40? That puts you at 40. Did we take anything off of? I don't want to take anything off there.
You did not. I put it back to the original request.
Okay.
I like that as well. You can change mine to mirror that.
Is there any other input from anybody else?
So you're up.
We'll go with Chris Venable's list there.
Is there any other discussion?
So John, are you okay with what Chris just came up with?
I like that.
You do? Okay, go ahead. I'll plug that in also.
Okay, so all in favor with the highlighted list?
All in favor of the highlighted,
Aye.
let's say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Was that easy? That was easy.
Yeah, but now your financial part.
Oh, yeah, that's the hard part.
Now you're in the
Actually,
cash.
no, they're actually all hard parts, but okay. Somebody's going to be disappointed, right? Okay, so that brings us to the financial part. John, you want to start again since you were humming away over there with it?
No, because I was spending my time on the other one.
What's that?
No, start down
Oh,
there.
you're sorry. Oh, okay. You want to start? You don't know where to start? Okay. Then I'll go ahead and start. Obviously, I'm not going to honor Mrs. Miller's request. I'm going to give her something. I really believe in what you're doing. It's so amazing that we want to support that. I want to give $24.50 to pickleball, which is what they requested. I'd like to give $2,000 to Women's Club. $500 to the Elks annual. $2,000 to the Yucaipa Calamasa Family Assistance number 19. And I'm not sure what these totals up to, but and I may have to go back and adjust those. Let's see here. The youth basketball, they asked for $2. I wanted to give them $1. And the family promise, I had 5 for the, item number 13. Is that the one that is located at 4th Street that helps with our homeless program? Everybody's fixed on the numbers up there, aren't they? Is number 13, is that the 4th Street homeless assistance? Is that family promise there? Or is it the other family service, number 14? Because one of them last year was our homeless assistance program, and then the other one was Redlands.
The Yucaipa Outreach is this one right here.
Which
The
one is it?
Family Promise is a nonprofit. It's with the school district, and they support families and teens that have come across hard times, homeless, and or have.
Okay, put 2 there, put 2 there. And then number 4, I wanted to put $2,000 there. Garden Works, I wanted to put 1,000 there. And Smiles for Seniors, I wanted to full 3,000 there. That may be on. And then 500 for Valley Elementary School. I probably went over budget, right? What's that?
How much for the outreach family service of Redlands, this one?
Which one, the 14?
Well, it's 5.
I said 2,000 and 2,000 for those, for 13 and 14, 2,000 each. Did that with a budget?
Yeah, well, no.
Not yet?
Nope.
Getting dangerously close though, right? But I wanted to give 500 to Valley Elementary.
Yeah.
Well, so we're close, huh? Does that, scroll down a little bit, let me see where we're at. So, That's kind of what I had in mind, and that we can add a little bit here or there, but to hear what the other guys have to say about that. 17.5. So if I need a difference there, I'll make up the difference with Valley Elementary School. Unless be out of the budget. Confusing, isn't it? The 5 off of Valley. Okay. Okay, shoot holes through that. Is that 17? 5? 4?
17,450, so if you want to give someone an additional.
The Women's Club, $50 more. How about that? Who's next?
I'm getting close.
So Bob's proposed numbers are our total that we're working with, 17.5?
How much was pickleball again?
2,450.
Chris, are you going next?
Are you going to go next? I'm almost there. I'm over. I'm at 20,000.
Well, mine's not going to take very long because I think my numbers are probably pretty close to what Duncan's are, so I'm going to say go with his right now. Well, I mean, unless you got something better.
We're having a sidebar.
Back to you.
Can I see his again? Okay. I'm good with that too.
What was that?
I said I'm good with yours.
Okay, he's good with that.
Same here. I'm good with that.
John, you're up.
No, I said I was good with your numbers.
Pardon me?
I'm good with your numbers.
Okay. That was easy, huh? Okay, for those of you that didn't get as much as you, apologize for that. We have to sort of spread around the love, and so I think that's fair, and I hope everyone with that.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, before we vote and move on.
Sure.
If I could ask desire of the council moving forward. I noticed it's been used over the last several years on this program. Is it the council continue in this manner, or would it be your preference that moving forward in future, we form an ad hoc committee that reviews this and then brings it to the full council?
So an ad hoc committee would consist of how many?
2 members of the city council and then staff.
2 council members and 2 members?
Well, 2 council members and an undetermined number of staff members. Yeah.
Okay. Then the applications would then come in to the committee, the ad hoc committee.
Correct.
Be evaluated.
Correct.
And then the decision would be, a preliminary decision would be made by ad hoc committee, and then that recommendation would be brought to council.
Correct.
Okay, what do you think?
I think that's a great idea.
He thinks it's a great idea.
I think that's a good idea as well.
Well, that's 2 votes.
You have anything like that before?
No, we have not. No, we have not. We've done this, I've been here, this is my 11th, we've done it this way every year. But probably what would happen is it's sitting to set up here in front of the whole world and basically what we want to give for each organization. It would the time, and it would streamline the process to where we might to object or override the ad hoc committee, which I've done before with others. But I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea that we make that transition.
We would still get the same documentation, everything we got in today's package. Preliminary decisions are made ahead of time.
Correct.
And then finalize. I'm good with that.
Hold on a second. Okay, so do we need to vote on that?
No, we heard the direction.
We've got a vote here. We've agreed on the amounts for the committees. Do I have a motion to approve this?
Can that include the recommendation to determine that the Childhood Cancer Foundation Southern California should be exempt from the guideline requiring a Yucaipa-based nonprofit?
Question or comment?
I need that a part of your recommendation.
Okay.
Just say you approve the amounts awarded and recommendation.
Okay.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we need to take just a brief intermission here, or recess in 5 minutes. My daughter was yelling at me. Okay, you guys ready? I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting back to order, and we finished up item number 7, and that's going to bring us to department reports. The 2023 Yucaipa Music and Arts Festival will wrap up. It's going to be Megan.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. Item before you is the wrap-up for the 2023 Music and Arts Festival. On Friday, May 5th and Saturday, May 6th, the city held the annual Music and Arts Festival. And this festival was put on by a committee that consisted of service clubs in the community, Rotary, the Yucaipa Valley Chamber of Commerce, local business, and city staff. The Chambers helped provide food and merchandise vendors, of which a total of 24 food vendors and 65 merchant art vendors. The total revenue earned from vendor fees, $32,265, with 60% going to the city. Inside YPAC, we had a flower show. Outside of the YPAC, we had a art chalk day that you can take pictures with, as well as a real-life muralist painting a mural that then was sold at the end of it. The Knights of Columbus provided the beer and wine garden, and the beer and wine garden sold $14,934 with beer and wine stuff. And 6% went to the city for a total of $9,112. As you your way up Yucaipa Boulevard, you ran into the Gem and Mineral Society. And the Gem and Mineral Society had geocaching, and as well as other vendors that sold jewelry and rocks, minerals. Donated a total of 20% back to the city, a total of $500. The city was the Rotary Club who managed the parking lot at the YPAC so that entertainers could get in and out, as well as production and crew that were working the event. The Kids Zone was a success, made more money than it's ever made, as well as a teen zone that was inside the YPAC. A total of $7,222 was from those two areas. This is the delicious food that I don't know who could say an ice cream cone when you have a giant ice cream cone on top of a food truck. This is a little bit of the shopping that took place that evening. And now get into the live entertainment. This year we did something a little bit. Our headliner on Friday evening was Lights, an LED dance group, America's Got Talent. There was a U2 tribute band known as LA Vation, and what opened the entire event was the San Bernardino Teen, an amazing group of youth who performed in front of the stage, as well as a high school jazz band. On Saturday into the evening was Skinnerd and Friends, a Leonard tribute band. Following that band, because it was the day of Cinco de Mayo, we had Metalachi, rock mariachi band. And the headliner was Roja, the classic rock band. A total of 191 VIP tickets were sold for Saturday's stage area, and this consisted of to the front of the stage as well as a bar. The total for festival entertainment, which included and the bands and their hospitality, was $90,020. This year, staff secured sponsorships in the amount of $27,000. And those were from IEHP, Citrus Wealth, Syrian Law Group, and Sorensen Engineering. So a little bit more pictures, entertainment. This year's Music and Arts Festival generated revenues that exceeded estimates by $1,342 and in actual expenditures that were less than anticipated anticipated expenditures in the amount of $21,030. And that was for a
general impact of $22,370 more favorable than what was originally budgeted. This concludes, and the recommendation is that City Council receives the 2023 Music and Arts Wrap-Up Report. I can answer any questions you may have at
Any questions of staff?
I do. When you wrap up this report, do you by chance send a thank you letter or note on behalf of the city for the sponsors and their involvement?
We send a thank you card, but that we should include City Council thanks you, and so we definitely will into the language.
Just want to make sure the businesses and folks that were sponsored, they're appreciated for their.
And I just want to add on that, we also include pictures such as one or some of the pictures that you were able to see on this evening, just to show them, number one, how many people were there, and then we also captures of their logo and how it was displayed, and so how the company benefited from their sponsor.
Did you talk to any of the business around if their revenues went up?
The orders in the Uptown, we talked to them prior to the event, but we have not talked to them after the event. We can with them.
Because we make money on their taxes, right? So yours is not 100% accurate if we added in if their revenue, right?
Absolutely. There's an undocumented benefit to those businesses there in the Uptown. And from when I have the businesses prior to the event, they are extremely thankful that we do this event. They do say more money just during our festivals than we do multiple weeks combined throughout the year. I have not walked them since this one. That is information that I received too.
That's a point. I hadn't thought about that. Go ahead. You're up.
I don't have anything except for that light show was believable. Yeah, that one right there. Never seen anything like that. That was amazing.
I would concur with that.
Need to bring them back.
So,
Yeah, I'm done.
well, is this, this is amazing, by the way. Congratulations. Is this, have we seen numbers like this before? Where we made money like this? I mean, usually spend money for the festival, right? I mean.
We did better this year than we're done financially past 11 years that we've been putting on the event. I think it's in part to the encouragement from the city manager to execute goal number 7 of city council, to revenue sources, services department, as well as examine those measures really towards finding revenue opportunities.
Incredible. I'm shocked. I mean, it's great. I have so much. I know I made comments about the rodeo, only profitable event we had. This is incredible. You did a fantastic job. I'm not sure whose idea that came about, but I want to congratulate you. A wonderful job, and this is a great report. So thank you. And it was a great.
You're welcome.
So we ready to file it. That's all we have to do. No vote, correct? Thank you, Megan. Outstanding work. Okay, next we have the.
Mayor Pro Tem, if we could to receive and file, that'd be great. Just an all in favor would be fine.
Okay, so do I have a motion to receive and file?
Move.
I'll second.
First and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is that good? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Mr. Grant.
Evening, council. So tonight we have annual report, and some of the slides have lengthy language on it. That's not for you. Actually post this on the city's website and people look at it. So they'll see this, and then those that don't have captions will be captions, so they can go and look at the PowerPoint on there, and people amazingly do. So our annual report for last 2022 calendar year. What I'd like to do is read the message from myself, the chief. I'm proud to serve as your fire chief. The Yucaipa Fire and Paramedic Department strives to provide the high level of life safety services to the residents of the city of Yucaipa. I'm honored to serve as the city's fire chief. More proud of the men and women of the Yucaipa Fire and Paramedic who mitigate all emergency types over 23 times while providing excellent customer service to the public. Protect. I'm constantly working with the city staff to improve the level of service we provide to meet the current and future needs of the city. The Yucaipa Fire Department staff takes pride in applying our profession and being a valued community we serve. So our organizational chart, especially with some new council members, so obviously we all work for the public, and then a work manager who works for you. We have a medical director who's our advanced life support program, volunteer QA, QI nurse, and then we have fire stations 3, which are staffed daily 24/7, 365. And so what we have on the department, we have a one battalion chief, which function as the battalion chief and the fire chief, and operationally share the battalion chief role with Cal Fire of Highland for battalion chief coverage. One captain, or 6 captains, 6 captain paramedics, 6 engineers, 1 medic, 5 fire paramedics, and then we have slots for 25 reservists, and we're about 15 to 20 constantly, because those, as soon as we can get those folks to school, they're going to permanent jobs, especially with the public service employment pools very low. And then we fund 2 dispatch comm operators. So one good thing to note, we cover 43 square miles of the city of Yucaipa and our contract in Oak Glen, about 55 people, a lot more visitors depending on what around the city. Estimated property values are over $6 in property value infrastructure that we protect through the fire department, and we're an ISO level 3x, which is fairly good. So our response, see here, we ran 8,514 calls last year, and our response time 6:09, and I'll go over that in the next slide. And up here you can see is medical aids. Over 6,000 our paramedics are the bulk of what we do. And these are 80% plus medical calls, and we're a little low actually. We're down closer to like 72%. So we do non-medical stuff. Here you can kind of see the historicals. Increase about 251 calls, about a 3 increase. It did slow, I believe, last 7 had a really busy increase. But we're increasing. So in perpetuity, we've continually service since we've incorporated. Over 5,000 calls when we incorporated in 1999, and now 500 calls here in 2022. One good thing to note is we did see a large decrease in response times from a 7:09 to 6:09. So that's we wanted 5 minutes, but that's great. A lot of that, a lot less waiting on extended ambulance response time was a huge factor in that. So we had a very rough year prior with that. So our fire station 1 at Bryant, that's all the staffing up there. Well, we do have a paramedic 551. We have the rescue side we use on remote area rescues. We use on our festivals, and it can staff medic. We use it at the rodeo. And then we have fire engines when they're staffed for fire season, which they currently, and they provide about 800 mutual aid calls in this every year. So benefit having those folks there. Station 2, let me go back there real quick. And these are just for each station. Station 27, 78 calls last year, about a 4.5% increase for them. Station 2, where we have paramedic engine 552, we staffed brush engine, which means we don't have for that. They're on the paramedic engine, but if we need it, they respond to a brush incident for us or a request. And then we have reserve engine 2A. They 1,014 calls last year for a % increase. And then our fire station 3, 5th and Wildwood. We have myself, medic engine 553, reserve engine, and then our utility. And they're our busiest. They run close to 4,000 calls, but so busy they get several hundred ups where the other stations pick them up. So the calls in that area are over 4,000, responded to 3,700 calls last year. 2.6% increase, so it's kind of good. That station was the slowest increase, which is good because they're obviously. And then myself, like I said, so as the fire chief, I oversee all the admin, then as a battalion, take command of incidents in the field. So I'm commander on anything like the El Dorado fire or down to like a fire hazmat, something like that. And our calls for service have the %, it was like 6 more calls than last year. It's about 56 calls. So that means we're dispatching, about a call a day of critical incidents in the city where it requires like a chief officer. Program we talked about, we were noticed year that Victor Valley was no longer going to support our reserve program, so I've been working with Hills College to get that going back again. Fall, semester. Fire Tech 98 will start back up and will actually be, which is where we wanted to be in the first place. And the program will be in full swing, ratio with Crafton Hills College. So that's a good thing for us. And what that does is these kids are you know, new to college, EMT, they're going through their fire academy. And it says, they're going to be on a fire engine full time. Our Oak Glen contract, December, we saw it fully executed through council. So we ran a analysis on that. We were performing that loss. We went back, renegotiated, you know, it took better part of half a year, increased the budget on this 50%. I'm sorry, we doubled the budget, over doubled the actually cover cost here in Oak. So 80 tolls this year, and it's a service area, but we're the only ones who can really do it. And when we look at stats, it adds about 1 second to our overall, so it's not really a factor with the portion there for response times. And automatic mutual aid, you know, we're busy, but why would we go help other? Same thing, we want help. If you don't give help, and if you don't participate, you can't apply for federal grants, state grants and stuff like that. So you have to participate in Master Mutual Aid, and we carry this with all the local cooperators, and we get routinely. That's just how the fire service works. And then training, these guys aren't just running calls. Obviously, there's a lot of maintaining engines, they're maintaining stations, they're trained to know, you know, no matter what call type, if it's enforcement, they got to know how to do technical rescues, that's confined space rescues, medical, you name it. We're kind of a catch-all, constant training on becoming masters of all. And then they get tested, so we maintain that all folks have to pass through an testing every year on wild structure, hazmat, and they do actual drills, they do you know, actual written tests to maintain currency. Fire prevention is something to see, not just Marshal's office, but we do obviously a lot of plans approvals as the fire code of stuff that needs to go to me. I'll work with the fire office. We do fireworks permits, event permits, commercial business fire inspection, wildfire community plans, and this last year we saw the 2 Firewise created. Toys for Yucaipa is a good program, pretty proud of, and we did recognize these folks. You guys recognize these folks here, and earlier this year, last year, we gave away over 3,000 toys to over 180 families and over 700 children right in Yucaipa. So that all stays here in Yucaipa. LPS is a safety program, so we collaborate with the high school. So school kids who, as early as freshmen, they can start taking these law and public safety programs, and they every other Friday to Crafton Hills Station, and they do at the fire station, and then they have these big events they do, and them you kind of see right here, they can do fire engine. So come Thanksgiving break, Christmas break, little kids compared to us are riding on the fire engine. Highlight of their we get them hooked or get them before those other guys over there. Certain silent alarm programs we provide. So we help teach the CERT. We did 2 academies last, total of 63 new CERT members. And then Sound the Alarm is a partnership where we install typically seniors who would have trouble doing it, but we install 8 smoke detectors in residents with other service stations and volunteers. And that was at Fremont Heights Mobile Home Park here. We collaborate with the college a lot, so we do the field externship for EMT medics, and it's a huge undertaking. We had 4 paramedic students, 2,400 volunteered hours. So they're doing 25-hour shifts with a preceptor, which we need to get folks into the field. And in turn, this is where we hire all our folks, Crafton Hills and Victor Valley College. So we also teach the Fire Academy Wildland for the colleges and the advisory boards for Crafton, paramedic, EMT, fire, as well as Victor Valley. So some of the outreach events we did, this for us, we've done EMS standby before, but never at this capacity. So 5 Winds, we did a medical, basically first aid station medical tent, treating multiple people at the same time. We're typically like a 1-for-1. That was a little new for us, and we worked with the Sheriff Reserve to get the tent and all that. Everything went well. We had a deal for service, but everything went smooth, and we were able to provide that for the city and for the event. Yucaipa Rodeo, also we staff paramedic response for that, for the citizens as well. Early last year, we were able to partner with the sheriff And we did our active shooter training for the, so we did multiple active shooter classes. And was obviously more aimed at the treatment, stop the bleed, kind of giving the folks the course on that for that. And then last year, first 9/11 ceremony when we did the box dedication. I think it was well received. Direction to do year 2, so I think everybody liked it, and we'll see for that. So this was the Allied at Crafton Hills College. So we see several typically girls come and they get into allied health careers. That's like radiology, RT, EMT, pick all the courses that our local college offer, and then we come in heavy and just throw the out there so they don't want all the RT stuff and all that. They want to become hopefully. And this is our new Firehawk. It was one of the first in service there. Open house, we do a big open house during Fire Prevention Week, and 2 so far because of COVID. We kind of skipped a year, and pretty well attended. A ballpark, probably 300 to 400 residents, and enjoyed the open house. So very well attended. We did the Crafton Hills Career Fair Day. So these are already kind of going down this path, and then we're here, get them here. We give them reserve application and try to recruit. Make a Difference Day. We've been able to get the help the last 2 years, and that's what those guys have been, is work, and they were able to put a lot of good work and get a ton of trees planted and then support all of our Winterfest, Autumn Fest, music and arts. Always out there. It's for us. So some of the significance we've had this last year, you don't typically see on a traffic collision with extrication, a little bit different, where we're jacking this car up. At the end of traffic collision with extrication, every week, but that one's a little different. So you saw this in the semi-annual report, but we did identify the culprit on the fire in Hills Preserve. We were able to track it down, and somebody had a photograph that this actually fire in the Crafton Preserve. It was 5 acres or so. This, I believe, Knollwood Mobile Home Park. One of the complexities we have here with all the mobile homes, they are always a threat to the mobile homes, and we have a couple fire hydrants due to the code when they were built. You can kind of see here, catches on fire, it's a threat pole. So flooding, my favorites. So we did have 3 significant flooding from the El Dorado burn scar, September, October, February, one of those being fatal in Lytle Creek. On that incident as a unified command, so I oversee the entire area, not just you, with my counterpart from County Fire. So we're always prepared for that, and we're not out of it yet. We can witness kind of years, and last year was year ever average. So we've got some growth, but we kind of came to what we were saying, like this is a threat, and all the steakhouse get taken out, like, yeah, it's very much a threat. This was secondary. Structure. We routinely run structure fires, and not necessarily significant to us, but the guys made a good stop on this few adjacent homes and vegetation, all that. Last year we did really well on vegetation fires, to keep all vegetation fires 10 acres or less through aggressive initial attack. And part of the reason we have CAL FIRE Wild Agreement 2 is we attack all initial attack wild. So if we get something here in any critical area, we get multiple chief officers, air tankers, helicopters, hand crews, dozers, and so very robust. We're coming in heavy and small. So luckily, this is about all last year with stuff like this, couple acres. So 5 acres, like the largest we actually had. A little bit the El Dorado fire. February, we did low elevation snow, havoc on our lines down call, that minor keys, and then we had the 20-car pileup freeway. Luckily, no critically injured, but we did send a hospital. Did have to MCI mass casualty incident that commanded. This was a structure fire at Hitching Post. Came down as a victim rescue. We got there. We did have 1 victim, fairly critical inhalation injury that we treated and transported with us. So 2022 goals. So some of the goals we had, get completed in 2022. Most of the updates will be good. Paramedic user fees, we repeated today, so we're there. Administrative support, you have support, kind of helps me because I had no help. The guys running calls on the fire engine, so I appreciate that, and that's in place. Vegetation management projects, so kind of gave an update with the council at the Fire Safe Council. We are vegetation treatment plan and wild work with the state park to reduce hazard fuel. We should be doing community chipping here in 3 to 4 weeks, actually. See all the kind of social media stuff where you can get real to your curb and we'll chip it for you. You're not having to try to find a truck off somewhere, especially elderly people. A little easier to get help just to get something to their curb. We come and take. So that's huge. Get all those hazardous fuel out of the city. Firewise Community to Fire Safe Council happened, and we'll present that to you next council meeting. Renewed Oak Glen fire contract, so that's a benefit to us. Absolutely. We cleaned up a lot of the language too for live, what we provide and what we get reimbursed. So that was a big win for us. Countywide EMS RFP, we supported, and that has gone to negotiations with us and another, so going well. And then upgraded extrication criminal and security grants. We were rid of this 20 extrication tools. So back to your high scale scale of hardness. These were not harder than cars like Teslas and electric vehicles, so we physically couldn't cut vehicles on extrications. So that's a good thing. We can now cut those. And unlike other places where they probably have to use stock photos, this is actually our guys from the Apple Fire. So you have the here Wildland Aid Fire Department, and that's us doing operation.
Any questions of staff?
Chief, very good report. It was back probably 10 or 15 years ago.
Okay.
On this time around 4th of July, the fire department would park the sheriff's department, throw a fireman in with the deputies as they're driving for the illegal fireworks off, and they would cite them and take care of that, right? Is that still available? Okay.
Absolutely. So I've already started talks on what our force like here this week, but yes, our law enforcement division with Battalion Chief, Forsters, is between the two cities. Obviously, Highland gets a little live like it does, but we split. Yeah, we usually pull everybody on duty and split. Yes, they respond. They're on our sheriff's channel. They have their own identifiers now, and we do joint enforcement, transient stuff like that. So absolutely, actually focused more on local enforcement with that too, and we, I believe it's a 4 officers plus. So that's just anytime the umbrella grows, it's obviously good because it locally from it. So we have we'll end up for post starting in January.
Perfect. Thank you.
It'll be a while, but we'll get some more cops.
Might be a dumb question, but go out on like the 10 freeway.
Mm-hmm.
Do that cost us the city, right? Do we recoup that money like that and stuff? Because we're helping other. We talked about that before. If contractors come in and stuff, we have to get extra insurance go away for the police department. Something were to happen on our job site. So now you went out the 10 freeway, the pile up,
Mm-hmm.
and that's cost still to the city. If you
Yes, we sold, and this was a long time ago, the state passed a crash. So if there's a at-fault negligent cause, which pretty much every vehicle accident, I'm sure law enforcement would say everyone is avoidable, we actually cost on that through their insurance provider.
Okay.
So yes, we absolutely do cost from that, and we're actually looking at performing that contract, every week can do, and you're actually going to see that's the council meeting or two.
That's great.
So yes, we do. Yeah, if you're fires, obviously we're not going after those. If it is negligent or malfeasance or wolf, we are trying to cost recover because we've been out there otherwise if you didn't do that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Good?
Yeah, I got a question. How many do you go on for the homeless issues?
I'd have to swag it. I couldn't, I definitely get back to you with I'm sure we can report pretty easy because we patients we give addresses to, but calls, we do. It's I don't think it's a huge issue until we start talking like overdose like that, but I have to run the numbers for you. Yep.
Good. Outstanding report. Thank you much. The time from 09 last year, 6:09, outstanding. And the fireworks, some of the houses in Chapman have better fireworks than we do, unfortunately.
It's a tough enforcement.
Yeah, and I don't know where they're getting them at. If I know, I'm kidding. Anyway.
I know the public, we take a lot of public gets frustrated with it, and you're pretty, there's many people, and what are you going to do best? So.
Well, I appreciate the report. So we need to have a vote and file, is that right, Anna? Miss City, do I have a motion to receive and file?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
First and a second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, brings us to item number 20, which is the Sunshine Ordinance update. And that's Mr. Joe.
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, Joe Perdetto, Government Affairs, in partnership with SADA City Clerk. So you passed a trans ordinance we call the Sunshine Ordinance 421 into effect on July 1st. It directed staff to implement a number of transparency measures. This status update to where we are. Most of the provisions have been implemented. That includes resolutions, MOU, contracts, and that's on the website. Much of it was already on the site and has been updated and consolidated in a new tool that I will reveal in a moment. Not too much on what has been done, except one of the things that are big is that these meetings are broadcast by video line. So now people could sit and not only hear what's going on, but actually see the patients and see beautiful faces here in the audience today and on the dais. There are 3 items that remain in progress. The first one is posting all council-approved contracts on the website. The reason that is because we don't have software or a mechanism those contracts, and some RFPs and contracts include sensitive information. You have to manually redact before posting it. So that's going to be a manual. It's going to take time, so that's ongoing. Another one is to upload all the planning missions. The planning department built this really great tool now live that is interactive. All the project city, along with a detail, and they're in progress of adding to that tool some of the applications so people could go and see the background. And then the last is a communications plan. The budget you adopted includes the resources to go and develop that, and that will be something that initiates right away after July 1st. The budget goes into effect. I mentioned the planning tool live on our website. This is a screenshot. You can see your website, and all those little dots represent different projects. You click on them and pull off to more info, and it has lots of information. It just doesn't have the background attached to it yet. And the new tool that kind of brings everything together and makes it easy to find public is the transportation. If you go on the website, you will see links to this. A one-stop shop to all the information that you directed staff to put on the web, and much more. Whenever you have questions from the public or for yourselves and know that information, you can pretty much on the transparency portal. If anything that isn't there that you want to know, let staff know, we can. But that is the status of your Sunshine 421. Are there any questions?
Any questions of staff? No. Thank you, sir. I appreciate we need a motion to receive and file.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that brings us to item number 20. Item number 21 is public hearing. So this time ahead in the public hearing, and we'll deal with item number 20. You call that time on that, right?
Please.
Okay, so that on that is 8:38 p.m. the time on the first public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor, for take this item. The hearing is for the adoption of November 2023- forwarding amounts remaining on the certified solid waste to the County of San Bernardino for addition to the 2023-20 tax rolls special assessment. Waste delinquents attached to your staff report, a total of 56. Public notices were published in Yucaipa News Mirror on Friday, June 2nd, 9th, and individuals were mailed to each delinquent property owner on June 7th. Property owners appearing on the list to appropriate payments disposal prior to August will have their account removed from the 2023-24. Tonight, recommending that the City Council resolution number 2023-35. That concludes my.
Any questions? See, there's no applicant representation and no publics on this item?
No comment.
Okay, and no applicant. close the public hearing. Give you the time on that too?
Yes, please.
Close at 8:40. Yeah, 8:40, I'll close.
That's a question real quick.
Sure. All right, time for council discussion. You may.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know. How long before you go and on their property? How long do they to pay?
After,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm our assistant manager over here.
So they'll have until mid-August to pay the amount owed before it gets to the county tax assessor.
So it's 6 months.
Well, they've been notified a year of repeated notices, and they'll receive a final, which already went out, and it detailing that they have to pay the bill being turned over to the assessor.
But this is for the future too, right?
Well, this is just for the current year. It's
Oh,
for
okay.
it's rendered over the past.
Oh, okay, I got it. Yep.
Anybody else want to discuss? Motion? A second? Any further discussion? All in?
Aye.
Opposed? That brings next public hearing for item number 2. So at this time, I and open the public hearing at 8:40.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. 22 is a public hearing related to the Landscape and Maintenance District Number 1. There are 3 recommendations. One is station annual, one is to the rate adjustments, and then the third is to credits. The Landscape and Lighting District 1 is a district. Within that are zones. Each zone that's annually, or annual potentially changes within those assessments. They fall into this. One is a zero change. The second would be a CPI increase. And then the third would be the greater of or 5%, the greater. This year, the related CPI was 6%. So anything in the bucket, getting a CPI increase, a 4.6% increase. Otherwise, if it fell into the third, it'd be a 5% increase. There are also, based on accumulated resources in each zone, there's potential for credits to be calculated against those assessments that are building up resources, get up to a 25% reduction in the future assessment. Calculation that we do is all of those calculations made and are included in the item within the documents within this item. That concludes my presentation. I'd be any questions.
We had not a flower event, and you know what I mean, and stuff to a park, cut the cost a little bit, but it was a joke.
Okay, that was a comment. Okay, good. Okay, so there's applicant presentation. No public comments? No public. No applicant. At this time, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 8:44 and open it up for discussion. Council. No? Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll second.
Have a first and a second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And bring us to item number 3. And I'll go ahead and public hearing on item number 3 at 46. Did I go too fast?
No, it was that we combined all the PowerPoint to the narrower format. I noticed some stuff was getting cut off on it. Wanted to make sure all the text was visible. All right, I do have a few public hits, so I'll try to go quick for all of them. So the first item is number 23-078, development ordinance number 4, which really is to the city accessory dwelling units and making updates to one that we're compliant with current, and then also to include some of the streamlining provision identified in the city's housing element. So kind of a bit of background. So in 2016-299 and 1069 signed by the state legislature, the requirements that cities accessory dwelling units. These are typically kind of the small, you'll see people had referred to them units or casitas or something, but really is this kind of small unit on the back of a property and rent out either for family people and kind of provides a level of incremental affordable housing in communities. So in recent city did adopt ordinance number 359 to meet the state's requirement. Since, as you guys are all aware of state housing laws in the past single year, including a number of ones that actually evolve that's in ordinance. So each year, kind of the city's dates to make sure our ordinance is compliant with it. The city's housing cycle, housing element, identify that, hey, there's some new coming on the books, so you guys need to make sure it's up to date. And so part of action is to address that. And then another is streamlining some of the process for provide certain amenities to those future residents that are kind of beneficial. Really, the key amenities that we're focused on is that they provide, so that way we deal with supporting parking on those properties, and then other architectural enhancements. Really just make sure that, hey, we're allowed to build these units, sure that we're addressing some of the community-wide concerns at the same time and making that process easier. State law changes, there's really kind of have occurred since the line to the accessory AB 345. This really is about a separate ADUs with very, very tightly requirements where it's done through in solo income buyer. There's also a number of operational elements to it where they do have to have a restriction between them that meets section 2.1 of the Tax and Revenue Code in a recorded tenancy in common agreement. And then there's a whole list of additions. I can't imagine this being something that happens, nothing that we've seen so far cities practice, but certainly that's new with state law. There were two additional things. It's 897, which is the height of ADU and kind of sets a little bit more requirements for cities. And AB 222, which is a cleanup item regarding the of ADUs. I do want to steal laws in practice, but was always compliant with those. Really, we're just making sure that the ordinance, since it was a state as well, just to make sure we're requirements. And then the last one for the attached garage and patio. So, to state law, anyone can be up to 1,200 square feet. Concurrently, these development code, we require architects to approve by the Planning Commission building a structure over square feet or 20 feet tall. And so if someone wanted to build the mass ADU, they can do that, but to add, let's say, a 2-car, 1-car garage to do that required Planning Commission approval. And so it adds kind of a lot more feature to it, a lot more to that. If the desire is, hey, if you can build the, hey, we did it not for that resident, that may be a benefit element. This ordinance includes a provision that allows up 400 square foot garage space, so 2-car garage and 250 square space. So it allows architectural enhancements of private space for those features, and it does not trigger that review. However, anything that still does, so someone can build a 1,200 square foot ADU, build a 3,000 square foot garage. Hey, we're good, we don't do this big architectural review. That's still in place, but at least we streamline the process for amenities that are beneficial. The Planning Commission had noted this during the review of one of these on 18th, and we were preparing the ordinance. They're like, hey, this is like a launch attached to this. Do we really need this? It seems like it's a no-brainer. This is exactly what we're trying to do. And so with that, Planning Commission did recommend approval at their June 7th Planning Commission. And so with that, staff does recommend approval, or this Planning Commission did recommend of the ordinance. That find that's exempt environmental review, and then its title for first reading that council ultimately supports that. That concludes my motion.
Okay, so do we have applicant presentation, public comment? No applicant rebuttal. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 51, and I'll open it up for discussion. Any questions or any comments?
Question. On the AB 45, so are you saying that somebody can build an ADU and then separate from, is that what that means?
It has a provision where that can kind of get sold on a separate component. As I mentioned, that the house or the ADU by a nonprofit organization, you sold to a qualified person, and then there's a number of other requirements to maintain as the unique provision added the ADU law. I don't know how frequently or happen, but
I was just going to check.
It's a little weird.
I asked the city attorney listserv weeks ago, and no one knows of this ever being used. It was an attempt by the legislature to do everything they can to increase housing in California. Ideas are going to land, and some of them we're updating because we're required to have it be compliant. But I don't anticipate this being used, if at all, or at least not very often.
If I see one, I'll be very surprised. So I'll just leave it at.
More questions?
Source of AB 35 was one of them is just for a non to buy a house or a lot on it, and then build an ADU up to 100 square feet under certain conditions. Actually, sell that ADU without a lot line adjustment or changing the APN number.
It won't necessarily trigger the division of the property. I think similar to what the city noted, I think this is just to throw another option, but with, as you did, SB 9, which allows kind of the urbans. I imagine those are a lot cleaner way than perhaps some of the provision. And so I don't dramatically change AD anywhere in the state, alone Yucaipa.
That's a good question, Mayor Pro Tem. I actually don't know how the ants would work in practice. Like Ben said, if one will let you exactly how to convey that without a parcel, basically.
Okay, so the 1,200 square foot rule, have to consider the garage as 1,200? Is that what you were saying, or is that what we were talking?
So for the special permit or the city's development code review, just as matched structure on a property over 12 feet triggers that review. So you take that, if someone builds a 1200 ADU, we have to allow anything bigger isn't allowed to facilitate that. The provisions here say, okay, well, if it's 1,200 square foot ADU, if they build a small garage, then that may be a worthwhile event. We shouldn't have to go through the rigmarole of a special use permit for that. Building this big massive garage, big massive structure, have a little ADU in it, then the provision would still go through the same process they always did. At least streamline the process. Or, if someone wants to garage to an ADU, we didn't want to penalize the process, since one of the challenges was we can't need parking and this is at least coverage that through the. We've had a number of actions. Through the Plan Commission, met this kind of requirements, and so we will make it a lot easier. We've also had occasions where they go, okay, I'm just 1,200 square foot ADU, I'm not going to garage. And so I think as part of that, the opportunity that we wanted with the proposals.
The purpose of this item number 12 is to bring code up to the standard at this point in time.
That is right. That is part of it.
Never changing, right?
Always.
So, any questions?
One more. So are you saying a detail, or can the garage be attached to the house? So like if you wanted to build a 12-foot ADU and you put a 300 attached garage on there, be able to do that? So
a special use permit is only detached structures. So if someone, let's say, build a big garage, there was never the code that prohibited it from being to their home. Just when you do the larger, and this was born, so the large height or visual design, so like a Quonset or other structure that's common for that. Those requirements, and so avoiding where someone was coming in, have this nice, modest building mass that made no so that was for
build a 1,200 square foot house and put a 1,000 foot or a 1,200 square garage attached. All good.
Love to live there. Yeah.
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Have a first yet? Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I'll do the title, ordinance number 426, an ordinance of the city of Yucaipa, California, Yucaipa Municipal Code, uses to be in compliance with states and to streamline the review of parking and architectural additions, accessory dwelling units, and fine of amendments exempt from the California Quality Act.
Thank you. Then we move to item 4, and Sam, I'll go ahead and open the public on item number 24 at 58.
All right, so this number 21-130. It's Development Code Ordinance number 401, and the city's sign codes addressing the biannual permit requirement, and then as well as adding clarification to the processing for signs ordinance. So different components. This is really more of an item of existing practices, making sure our code reflects what's happening. So as part of developing a site or a commercial site, they have a sign registration for if they're building their quickie mart. They have to get a permit for this. Our existing development code has called for a permit, so every other year renew that permit. We provide for that sign. It's nothing that's ever been done in the history of the city. We've never been part of it since 2015. We had people coming back in. We don't have the staff to review and trying to get us to come in every 2 years, pull a permit to then keep the have. Doesn't make a lot of sense. The city's user were updated to a one-time permit review process. So this was just to reflect that change in the biannual review and the plan, which was never done. I don't know if it ever was done. John Meant the start of the city. And so this is to make sure that the code is current, the practice. And then the component is freestanding sign review. So as of any new development, if they have a freestanding sign to approval by through a land use application for this is to look at the size of the and really just comparing it to the proposed development to show, hey, does this look good, or is this structure detail out of compliance? The self isn't necessarily part of the detailing that this proposed really to say, hey, if you're doing a review of this project at the same time, you don't have to do a separate application for the freestanding sign. We can just tie it in rather than them having to separate application and pay a fee. If we're looking at for the project as a whole, they can do everything one application. Say this site is built and they decide they want to build a new, then it would still follow the same procedures, but it just helps plant, hey, you don't have to have this step if you're going through everything, since the only thing the planning commission is looking at the architecture of the sign and the. And so with that, that concludes my presentation. Was reviewed 7th planning commission unanimous vote to approve it, and then I do have the ordinance available to be read as when it would like me to.
Okay, so look at representation, public comment. I have one. Christine.
Christine Mulridge Place. You know, I was at the 7th Planning Commission, and I spoke last time about how every Planning Commission meeting was a major variance, a minor variance, and that the reason why it came up was of the line that was, and read it to you, how presented to the Planning Commission. It's number 7 on June 7th. It's a major variance increase in the building sign requirement to 2 signs, 360 feet, in lieu, a total of 200 square. So they, La Quinta had an applicant here, what they did, put up too big of, and so what they asked the Planning Commission to approve, instead of 200 square, 306 square feet. And so staff recommended Planning Commission that they approve an ordinance that would be okay with signage. Yucaipa is a very conservative community. I sat on a corridor, and the first thing determined was hugely on the hillside, and driving through Yucaipa at hillsides instead of like every other city. So we had a hillside ordinance that protects sides because we think full. This Planning Commission, some of the things that staff is recommending is full throttle. Change this, do this. This is a major variance, a minor variance. What ended up being is the Planning Commission approved it, denied. Okay, so now they're coming for approval. La Quinta signed, the hotel put up too big of a without permission. Okay, and now they're coming over here and new on the ordinance so they could sign. I don't care about it. Yucaipa is conservative. We want this to remain the same. You can't just arbitrarily increase or change sign ordinance because somebody asked you to do it. The reason why those ordinances are there. The other part is I don't want things to be administrative. I don't want the city staff the decision to these type of. Maybe it should go online. Maybe they don't make sure it's post permit. The company made a mistake. Well, so now let's approve an ordinance. Take sign down. 200 feet is what they are, ordinance is approved, and that's what it should. We shouldn't have this all the time trying to accommodate everybody else. We should accommodate the city, period. That's why we're here. Thank you.
Okay, we have a little talk about that.
Yeah, I can
close the public hearing. Go ahead.
So I can quickly respond to provisions for one to change or modify or sign a particular business or doesn't modify the mobile sign area or any particular profile. Peter noted as what is before City Council tonight, just merely like the lawn standards of city staff to issue one permit for any building signage applies with the sign code rather than having biannual process listed in code. Also streamlining this for the arc of a sign. That's the development code change reflect what's allowed or not allowed on business for their signage.
So basics, the item is not changing size sign, changing the fact that once you build a commercial sign, you come back every 2 year review or verification sign. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
And then also there is an ending architecture that goes with a development. Then this is saying that the actual sign can be evaluated at the same time that the actual arc of the building is being evaluated.
That or resident, multifamily complex. In one fill, we don't require them to fill our application in with this.
This change nothing to do with the line?
No.
Okay. Any comments? Closed it. So this time, go ahead and the public here at 12. Put it up for council. Does anybody have questions?
So when the application comes signed, then you would compare dimensions they're looking at for us, see if it's compliant with currently in place.
That's been the long approach anyways, is sign registration permit. They provide us where the sign's going, building kind of dimensions, and then we compare the respective land use district and what this allows for that. And then see those numbers, they are welcome to submit an application if they choose to. And so that's that sign registration process entails. That isn't proposed to change at all. That way, before preconsider other cities' approach, building mounted sign as they do their review too.
Thank you.
Good?
Last page, the public action of commissioners, it was second. That's been voted on by the commission already, or?
A sign ordinance was by the planning commission. Recommend council review this item.
So that it was passed.
It was recommended, yes. Technically, an ordinance city council has, so they provide a review and recommendation for council.
Was this?
It was 4-0 on that vote for the ordinance.
Yeah, because I'm Snodgrass, and it was Commissioner Vick.
Yeah, council, the zoning changes to it are done only or law. Code does require the commission review any that's affecting the development before it comes to you. That way you know what the commission's recommendation is on. They make a recommendation.
Are you good? I'm good. Yes, sir.
So what happens in La Quinta when the sign's and it's too big? I mean, what in that case?
So
Fine, take it down. What?
So it's where permit something that exceeds what it is. There's a few different avenues. It just gets removed and out. They do screen section and then gets weighed up of that application. There's certain adjustments that need to be made for that. And another approach is amendment code to change this as well and making the tweets. And this standard was developed, umpteen years ago, really reflective of these ideals and about today. So that's a little bit limited when it comes to just an applicant. They'll usually do either changing the meet code or the application. There have been a case where variance application denied by the planning commission and then to city council. And so city council approved that. There's also been a case where a variance isn't approved by the city council. Decide, hey, this needs to be changed. We're going to hold off on approval of it. You go to reflect current trend and then it's back and then it's approved or in some sort. There's a few different ways that scenario counts, depending on what the project.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the sign is not consideration at this. It's, okay, so do I have a motion? First and a second?
Sorry. I'll title.
Okay, go ahead.
Ordinance 1, an ordinance of the city of Yucaipa, California, code section 87.725 registration, division of regulations of Yucaipa development to sign registration. That concludes that.
Thank you. Hesitation. So I have a second. The discussion. I close the hearing. Favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. Okay, that brings us to item number 25, which is also a public hearing, so I'll open public hearing at 9:12. Now you're up again.
It's going to be case number 23-020, minor general plan change of land use designation, approximately 1.5 acres, functional to the general commercial land use district. This is a site that is currently owned by the city's center and formerly the Yucaipa Police Station, so it's 5th and Boulevard, and the applicant is the city. As I know, this is the current owner, so it has been used as space, does include an area and then parking lot and some storage, and this is along here and then seeping along the front. The site itself in kind of a few different parcels within 2 different ones in the condition. The city is working on creating certificate of compliance. This is its own stand lot. So kind of a bit of history. So the city previously evaluated and deemed it as property, meaning that the city does not use property for its purposes here. And so has been a exclusive negotiation to sell and the property requirement. So while it has been fine with this as an office, zoned as most commercial don't need it there. They need it as commercial since that would be the approach that they would take. So this really is an action to allow that surplus property transition to happen. Itself as office or business activities isn't necessarily to change with this act, but it does allow for the zoning to read what is the intended use of the site, and then the owner would use it enterprise as would submit their own separate element as appropriate. And so with this was reviewed at June 7th Plan Commission meeting. Recommend council approve this plan amendment to rezone Bader site to general. That concludes my plan. And then again, I do have it ready for review when you're ready.
Okay, so there's no applicant. Any public comment? No applicant. I'll close the public hearing at 9. I'll for council discussion.
Does the city own? So
Yes.
this is, oh, I'm sorry,
It's okay.
it's toast.
This is property was police station. It is being used or was being used incubator center for 5 years or so, and That was a good effort. That it needs the purpose of rezoning it to be sold and can be developed. That corner considered ground zero Yucaipa as commercial development is concerned. Do you have any?
No.
Okay. Or you want to read your?
I'll
Hey, you read first.
Number 428 in the City Council of the City of California, amending ordinance number 43, official land use plan and zone of the City of Yucaipa.
Okay, motion to approve this.
Good motion.
First? Second? Did I get a? Okay, first and a second. Any further discussion? Favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that item passes. Let's do item number 6. That's a public hearing. And so I'll go ahead and open that public at 9:16. Go ahead, you're up again.
My last for the night. Number 21-013. This is inflated to a 5.8-acre construction mechanized equipment storage yard. As part of it, does additional covered storage, a future equipment and building, and then a future antique truck museum along Boulevard in the Hal Hayes.
Excuse me for just one. I need to recuse myself. This is us and I do a lot of business with.
Okay, out of here. Okay, continue.
All right. So the property itself along parcels at 5.1 acres. For the property is zoned as commercial or CS. However, there was a small triangle kind of land on the back that as multiple family residential. As part of the site, it is part of the historic Dunlap commercial. So Dunlap Bowl has been used for different kind of sites and store activities, and itself has been used for purposes throughout the years. Hal Hayes Construction has been at this official 2002. However, was Hal Hayes Forces kind of the initial business that led to construction. And some of the most recent improvements were part of case number 018 use permit. And so the applicants were able to actually worked on that project many years before he had worked for as well. Since it has kind of expanded, they've acquired some of the adjoining, including into that own property. And so the new covered storage constructed with permits, and that was the thing that initially this project for they're working on getting it entitled correct as well as kind of support along the site. As part of the entitlements, there's kind of different components. For the first one is the minor general, which is to meet the zones as commercial. So having this one little fragmental property that developed for any other purpose, they're requesting that BTS have the conditional use permit across 3 phases. First one is to address those structures the store built and demise. Second phase is then to create a 75 square foot repair building and truck square foot truck wash canopy. And then the final phase is phase 3, construct a 20 square foot multi-purpose building. And this includes office space as a 1900 or square foot museum. And so the applicant have classic and kind of restructure equipment. They collect that at the business they're in, and so they want to display it. And so with the offices, reload business headquarters from Riverside, Yucaipa. And then the last component is a variant proposed 4-yard setback in that little triangle property in their landscape coverage. Minor general plan, again, only for this kind of 1 acre site. Parcel itself doesn't have way access to other set going through that boulevard. So if you were to say a resident, you'd be driving through yard and storage operations. And so without legal access or anything like that, it really is a landlord and doesn't have a lot to be remaining residential for that purpose. And so owner owns everything, has rights to these different the GPA would essentially one zoning for property versus having this little kind of no man's land of their property. Then the condition I mentioned is for the cases, really just to legitimize there. So there's that were constructed back here. They will be required building permits and indications necessary to comply with California Building Code, something as structurally sound. They will have through that effort and cost to retrofit it to make sure it complies. They are aware of those. And so there'll be maybe some minor modifications and insurance with that. The second component is that longer term phase. So phase 1 addition or phase 2 is parking lot area and the vehicle repair car wash canopy. Phase 3 is antique office space over here, and then additional land for the parking lot is also important. As we will host it for private events with people during that, so they can have business related function mixer back there, and then kind of all that cool equipment that they have. As I mentioned, there's 2 different the rear yard setback when you're a non-commercial property. The development code does require a setback. However, in this case, they have a 7.5, but 7.5 that's provided is unique in that that transition is to address ability with like resident other uses. However, there's that passes, so the separation from these structures to residences are quite a bit further than would normally be that transitional thing. And then with the triangle does make it a little bit awkward structures way, since it does kind of flows in onto this right here. Another component is coverage. It does have landscaping provide frontage, and they will be adding more landscaping with the. And so really, they're not right now, and they're going to be plants, but still at the template listed in the city's code. And so with that, as part of the development code provision, we provide a handle that shows the land height, large landscaping setback in spaces. All the standards are met except for that are identified variance, 10% landscaping, and then the rack. However, all the code standards, the proposed product. As part of the processing, is subject to review, and so a was pursuant to the California Quality Act. It did include an air quality and energy analysis, a noise technical to support the analysis. Both the project review, environmental reviews, no public comment. And the commission did review project at their June meeting and did recommend approval. They did note that that circle kind of split doesn't make a lot of sense, or the RM spot doesn't make a lot of residential development, and we have a moot issue. The property is, and they felt that the secret was altered to that property in a lot more sense. So with that, they did recommend approval, and so yeah, the approval of the including all the use permit, general plan, and findings of the MND, mitigation monitoring program, and test determination. Title as ready for review. Representative is to answer questions.
Okay, applicant wants some comments, or do we that? No? Okay. Are there any comments? Go ahead and close the hearing at 9:24 and up for council. No? No comments, colleagues on the city council. So that area, so it's an honor, I think, for how to move their corporate Yucaipa. I know there was off the free, and it's wonderful that they're everything here about that. It's obvious that that area is industrial core, so this fit there perfectly. So, do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Have a motion? You broke
I'll
it.
take second.
Got a first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, tell Mr. he can come back and.
Read the title.
Yeah, I'm
ordinance
sorry.
real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Don't go get.
Ordinance number 420 of the City Council of the City of Yucaipa, California, amending 343 official and zone of the state of Utah.
Thank you. It works, sir. Tell him to put this down. Okay, so brings us to announcements. Do my colleagues have any?
No.
Fourth event is coming up.
4th of July event coming up, where we get our fireworks, everybody else is kidding. Okay, thank you for them. Anything? With that, I'll adjourn the city council meeting.